Hey folks, it's Cody Stoffer with Playmakers Corner, here to tell you about Code Red Coaching. Competing in athletics means you've lifted the weights, you've watched film, and you've got the passion. Problem is, that's what everyone else in the state has done. Perfect your game by honing in on your mental performance with Code Red Coaching. Whether you are a team or an individual, Code Red Coaching has the tools to create mentally solid habits and set up you or your team for success. Find Code Red Coaching at coderedcoaching.com or call 720-979-1914 to learn more today. That's coderedcoaching.com or 720-979-1914 today. Now back to the show.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. I'm Gideon, and today we are going to go over the results from the final 4 games in the 1A classification that occurred on Sunday, November 18th of 2023. And, there were only 2 of them, so there's not too hardly much to go over here, but we have 2 matchups here between the Meeker Cowboys and the Lyman Badgers, and then the other one was between the Strasburg Indians and the Ray Eagles. So first I'm going to go with Meeker and Lyman, the 4 seed, taking on the 1 seed here. And I tuned into this one pretty briefly. Well, not briefly, for the entire second half. I tuned in when Lyman had just scored and gone up 14-7. And I gotta say, a lot of that second half was Meeker screwing up and not necessarily Lyman. Like, Lyman took advantage of it, but Lyman wasn't overpowering. Meeker just kept fumbling the bag. The run defense for Lyman, though, was really, really good. So I'm going to go through Meeker's stats here first. Starting off with Ryan Sullivan, 8 for 20 for 80 yards and a touchdown here. Rushing, we have Cade Blunt, 70 yards, Wyatt Powers with 42, and Clay Crawford with 23. Receiving, Blunt was also the main target. Looks like his 25-yard catch may have been the touchdown there. Blazon, he also had 1 catch for 33 yards, and Jace Mobley, 1 for 12. In terms of defense, Buzz Clatterball went out with a bang. 16 tackles, 1 for loss. Blunt, also 12 tackles and 1 for loss. Blunt is probably going to be the main guy for this squad moving forward. Judd Harvey with 12, Jake Blazon and Hayden Schultz with 11, Saeed Rodriguez and Clay Crawford each had 6. Rodriguez, again, a freshman. He'll also be a really big piece for them moving forward. And then, we also have Colton Newman with 4. Clatterbaugh had a forced fumble there as well, and Jacob Simison, he recovered to that. Blazon, 2 kickoffs for 110 yards, 1 touchback there. And then we also see Sullivan, 1 punt for 43 yards, and Blunt, 67 punt yards on 2 kicks. Rodriguez, 42 kick return yards, and that is long and short of it. Blazon, 1 for 1 on PATs, 0 for 1 on field goal attempts. And that field goal attempt, I'm going to start here with the defense for Lyman. That was blocked by Keon Bandy, who also had a fumble recovery there, which was forced by Trayton Marks. Punt-wise, Jordan Rockwell, that is, 2 punts for 74 yards. Logan Bottier, 39 kick return yards, and Danny Sante, 4 for 4 on PATs. We also see Trayton Marks, 14 tackles, 4 of which for loss. Bandy with 11. Brody Scherer, 8. And Nathaniel Kuntz with 7 tackles. Aiden Kalath with 6, Mason Jaquez with 4, and then we have Rockwell, Lance Beatty, and Zach Carr each with 3. On offense, we see that Lance Beatty, he had 1 catch for 61 yards and a touchdown. Keon Bandy had 26 receiving yards, and then Nathaniel Kuntz, one receiving yard on 1 catch for a touchdown. Rushing, Jordan Rockwell, 18 carries for 140 yards and 2 scores. Keon Bandy with 78 rushing yards. Bottier with 56 and Beatty with 12. Skylar McCready also had 10. Rockwell, passing-wise, 6 for 9 for 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. A QBR there of 141.7. As Lyman, I forget if I mentioned this earlier, but as Lyman beat Meeker 28-7. And so Rockwell here, Playmaker of the Week finalist, as well as Trayton Marks, 14 tackles, is absolutely insane. But looking at it. Next up, we have the game of the week in 1A, which kind of feels goofy to say now that I say it out loud, considering there were only 2 games, but it is Strasbourg defeating Ray 28-27, which is kind of insane for me to read. I'm going to start with Ray here. Casey Midcap passing-wise, 7 for 19 for 82 yards, 2 picks thrown there. Ooh, and a QBR of 11.2. Midcap, he did make up for it on the ground, though. 85 rushing yards for 2 touchdowns. Samuel Meisner here, 171 rushing yards and 2 scores on the ground. Aaron Tania, 15 rushing yards, and then Austin Collins with 12. Tania, he also had 52 receiving yards. Bryson Lewis had 15, and then Ben Harms had 14. Tania, he may be, he'll probably be the main guy after Midcap and Meisner graduate, but this is a team that skill position-wise I think is set for a while. And looking at it, Midcap, he had 8 tackles, 1 for loss. Taveri Chappelle, 7 tackles, 1 for loss. Tania, 6. Austin Hendricks, 6. Meisner with 4. Ben Harms with 4, as well as Austin Snap. And then you also have Brody Richards, Bryson Lewis, and Riddleman, each between 2 and 3. And only one of the names, Ben Harms, that I just read to you all, was a senior. And on the sack board, we don't have any more seniors. Austin Snap and Taveri Chappelle each had half a sack, and Chappelle had a hurry as well. Looking at it, Midcap had an interception for 5 yards. Tania, he had a fumble recovery, and then Harms and Chappelle each had a pass deflection. In terms of kickoffs, Diego De Leon is continuing to prove why he is such a good kicker. 3 kickoffs for 191 yards, 64 yards on average there. Punt-wise, Midcap with 149-yarder, which is pretty insane. In terms of kick returns, Tania, 29 kick return yards, Lewis with 18, Collins with 16, and Midcap with 15. Meisner also went 3 for 3 on PATs. And moving on to Strasbourg's side of things, Julian Raul Valencia, 4 for 4 on PATs. Kickoff return-wise, Austin Velasco is 27 kick return yards, Paul Smith with 23, Aiden Dodge with 14, and Landon Martin with 6. Punting, RJ Weaver, the sophomore, 5 punts for 175 yards. Julian Raul Valencia, 4 kickoffs for 213 yards. 2 interceptions caught here. Paul Smith, 1 pick for 23 yards, and Thomas Devlin, 1 pick for 16 yards. We also have Austin Velasco and Al Dickens here. Velasco, 1.5 sacks, and Al Dickens with half of 1. Aiden Anderson here, a senior, comes in, gets 12 tackles and 1 for loss, and you see Cameron Manahan and DJ Cannon each match that mark. Al Dickens with 11 tackles, 3.5 for loss. Devlin with 10, along with Velasco. Paul Smith and Ian Ross, 7 and 6 respectively. Martin with 5 tackles. Jorge Parra with 4, and then Tristan Goebel with 3. In terms of offensive achievements, we have Paul Smith with 88 receiving yards and a touchdown. Damian Garcia, 1 catch for 60 yards and a score. Pretty insane there. Austin Velasco, 46 receiving yards, and Julian Raul Valencia with 23. Rushing-wise, Martin at the front of the pack, 12 carries for 54 yards and a score. Devlin with 42 yards, and then Paul Smith, 14 rushing yards and a touchdown. And then Landon Martin, honestly, I'm just going to say he is one of the finalists for Playmaker of the Week. 7 for 19 passing, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns to 1 interception thrown. All around, just a really, really good game here from Landon Martin and Strasbourg as a whole to get the win over Ray. Because if you're looking at the score tracker, Strasbourg only scored with 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter to tie it up at 21 here, which is pretty insane, considering that Ray brought it from 14 to 14 to 14 to 20 in Ray's favor with 4 minutes to go, which means that Strasbourg managed to get all the way down the field within 1 minute to win this game, which is absolutely insane. And Strasburg almost blew it because looking at it when the scorer checked in the third quarter, Strasburg was up 14-7, and then Ray battled back, got up 21-14, and then Strasburg said, "You're not taking this from us 2 years in a row." And so with that, it is time for our predictions for the 1A classification state title game at the CSU Pueblo Thunder Bowl on Saturday, November the 25th. If this is your first time joining us for predictions, first I'm going to go through all of the predictions that Simon, Gino, and Cody have made for the 1A title game, and then I'm going to talk about my own opinion here. And so, first, we're going to start with Simon, who says that he cannot express how happy he is to finally see Strasburg back in the championship for the first time since losing to Lyman in the championship 28-0 back in 2020. He has a lot of love for Strasburg as well as Landon Martin, who is one of the few players who saw playing time on that last appearance team who is still here. With that being said, Lyman is a juggernaut and took down Strasburg 49-21 earlier this season. While I don't believe it'll be that bad of a score this time around, he does think that Lyman will find a way to win. The key to winning here for Strasburg is Landon Martin having the game of his life, and even then, that may not be enough. Everyone needs to contribute to beat Lyman, and when you need that many things to go right, the odds of winning just aren't great. Either way, he's looking forward to seeing this long-anticipated matchup. Cody here. He says that the Badgers took a handful of great players from last year and only made them better and had them grow to be one of the most dominant versions of this team we have ever seen. The Trenchers are at an all-time peak, headed by the best Badger lineman he has seen in Trayton Marks, and the offense is capable of balance and methodical drives or major plays from great athletes. Defensively, the secondary has to be ready to go, and the linebackers have to be careful with the RPO capabilities of Strasburg's offense, with Landon Martin being able to tuck and run like a lunatic and hit passes down the field. But the trenches are where the game is won, and that's where the Badgers have an edge. And if it's not obvious there, Cody said that he thinks Lyman's going to win. Gino also said that he thinks it's going to be Lyman, and he said, how cool would it be to see Strasburg take this one? The Indians are rocking a balanced offensive attack behind Landon Martin and Thomas Devlin with multiple other playmakers to carry the ball or just change the game in general. Unfortunately for Strasburg, they will be facing a Lyman squad that has faced everyone's best already, and Lyman will be going into this game having already beat Strasburg pretty badly earlier in the season. It would take a coaching and execution masterclass for Strasburg to take this one, so he's going to take Lyman here by 14. And so, here are my thoughts on this. So, I'm also picking Lyman here, and I will say Strasburg has a hell of a chance. I will give them that. They've got big-time playmakers. Landon Martin, Austin Velasco, Al Dickens, you have Thomas Devlin, you have a bunch of dudes on that team that can make big plays. And they lived up to my preseason prediction of them being the number 2 team. But Lyman feels inevitable. They faced earlier this year, and while they are different teams than they were then, I see Lyman claiming the title much more often than not. And I will say this, when I tuned into that Meeker game, Meeker lost it a bit more than Lyman won it, if that makes sense. Meeker made a lot of mistakes, and it was a bit closer than the score. But I am very held back in saying that Strasburg could, in favoring Strasburg here outright, because they have momentum, and they won that game in overtime off of stopping the 2-point conversion. But I have never seen the team that pulls off the last second win the next one if it's another big upset. Not once. I wish they did, but it is going to be so tough. It always feels like that is where that's where the luck runs out for teams like this. I am going to be so happy if I am wrong. I mean, heck, I'm happy as long as it's a good game. I don't really care who wins, but the history, the in-season matchup, and the vibes say Lyman. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You guys can crucify me, do whatever you want. But the Badgers probably have this one. In any case, if I'm wrong, you can rub it in my face in person. I'll be at the 1A Championship on Saturday with Simon, Gino, and Cody. And, we'll all be having a good one. We just really hope that we get 2 really good games. Here in a minute, you'll hear the 2A classification recapped, but until then, or until Saturday, I guess, or if you listen to my Chatfield versus Grandview recap later in the episode, go check that out if you were interested. But I'll see you all then. Stay safe, drink water, don't die, stay hydrated, and I'll see you around. Peace.
What is going on, y'all? Gino here with the Playmakers Corner podcast, coming at you with our second to last recap in 2A for the 2023 Colorado High School football season. This absolutely insane year in this classification came to a head this past weekend with 2 great matchups going down. Starting off here with number 1 Delta visiting the number 13 seeded Moffat County Bulldogs. The Delta Panthers absolutely dominated this Final Four matchup with a 28-10 win here over a Moffat County squad that came into this game red hot. Delta was coming off a nail-biting win over TCA, so it was expected that Moffat County would at least put up a decent fight, but instead Delta came out and took care of business as a 1 seed should. They were led by Talon Hewlett, who finished with 220 yards and a touchdown on 31 carries on offense. And then on defense, he also dominated with 11 tackles and 3 tackles for loss. Then you had Ty Reed. He went 8 for 12 for 109 yards, 2 TDs, and a pick. On defense, you had Jordan Frazier, who had 2 picks, including a pick 6, and 10 tackles, as well as 3 catches for 33 yards on offense. Also on defense here, Xavier Martinez with 11 tackles and 2 sacks, Tucker Johnson with 9 tackles and a sack, and Landon Horn also caught an interception. We didn't get any stats here from Moffat County in this one, but I just want to say how much of a pleasure it was seeing them take care of business in the first 2 rounds despite being a 13 seed. That Elizabeth game was one of the best games I've ever seen in person. And yeah, this Bulldogs team just showed a lot of fight, and they are a very well-run program overall. Delta will be moving on to the championship round to face the winner of the Eaton and Rifle game, as Delta is still very hungry for a state championship. Speaking of the Eaton and Rifle game, the number 15 seeded Eaton Reds visited the number 3 seeded Rifle Bears, and the Bears got the big 24-15 win here over a extremely tough Eaton team that has been on a roll in these playoffs. They were led by the usual stat-stuffing performance from Logan Gross, who finished with 195 yards and a touchdown and 2 picks on 10 of 19 passing. And then he had 121 yards and 2 TDs on 23 carries on the ground. And then he wasn't done there. On defense, he had an interception and a forced fumble. Also on offense, we had Isaac Valencia with 111 yards and a touchdown on 18 carries, Ryland Lane with 3 receptions for 93 yards, and Joel Valencia with 2 receptions for 36 yards and a touchdown. On defense for the Bears, Troy Matea continued to absolutely dominate in these playoffs with 11 tackles, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and 3 tackles for loss, making it 9 total tackles for loss for him just in these 3 playoff games that Rifle has played. Rifle will be moving on to play Delta in the 2A state final in what is almost guaranteed to be a classic game. Meanwhile, Eaton's Cinderella run is over. They pulled off some amazing wins against a powerhouse in Kent Denver in round 1, and then a nail-biter against Pagosa Springs last week in round 2. Their clutch play has been nothing short of amazing to watch, and it was a pleasure being able to get to see that in person in the middle of it against Pagosa last week. And that now wraps up the recap for the round 3 semifinals in 2A. I will now be transitioning into the podcast predictions on who will be taking home the 2A state championship. So now that recap's all wrapped up now, let's have some fun here and check out the podcast predictions for the 2A state final going down next week between Delta and Rifle. Starting off with my vote here. Listen, out of all the amazing potential state championship matchups we could have been blessed with, this might be the best one of them all. We got a red-hot Rifle squad that hasn't shown any signs of slowing down since losing to this very Delta squad, and then we have a Delta Panthers team that has yet to lose all season, despite a scare in the regular season against Pagosa, and then in round 2 last week against TCA. Do you take the team with the momentum, or do you take the team with the hype and record on their side? The fact that Delta beat this Rifle team by 21 says a lot, but this is not the same Rifle squad from the first 5 weeks. Both teams have all Playmaker players littering the field on both sides, so I'm expecting a close game no matter what. I do think that this is Delta's year though, and with them dominating Moffett last week, I got to go with my gut here and give Delta the win 24-20. I simply love that defensive line on Delta too much to not give them the win here. Simon has Rifle winning in this one. He says, this was a difficult decision, but my gut is saying Rifle. I had them going to state, but losing to Berthoud in my original bracket from before the playoffs. Rifle has won state as recently as the spring of 2021 when they took down TCA. Of course, that was the makeup COVID season, but I believe that they can repeat some history in that same stadium. This is also a chance for revenge from the regular season. All of this motivation has to amount to something eventually. Regardless, this should be a good game, and I'm looking forward to see it all go down. Cody has Delta winning here. He says, I originally chose Rifle to pull off this upset win, but I just keep reviewing this matchup and the teams that they've played that were maybe built in a similar way, but Delta's continued success against the run is ultimately what I see being the difference here. Rifle needs the run to work to win, and will struggle way more without it than Delta would, and I think that having made state last year has sharpened this Panther team to not fall short again. Gideon says, this is such a tough decision. God, both of these teams are on such a high level. Both have an MVP and a Defensive Player of the Year finalist. Both have a coach that we considered for Coach of the Year. Rifle's only loss this year came to Delta, but that was ages ago. Delta has only faltered once in these playoffs, while Rifle hasn't missed a step since that singular loss. I feel like the Bears are the more complete team, and it's always hard to beat a team twice, but Delta more than has the star power. I'm going to take Rifle by 1. There are a different squad than they were all those weeks ago. However, I would not even be close to surprised if Delta came out with a trophy. And that wraps up our 2A state predictions here for the 2023 2A state final. I am now going to be passing the mic off, and I will catch you all in the 4A recap where I checked into the Palmer Ridge versus Heritage game. Peace out.
Hey, what's good, everybody? I am one of your co-hosts and showrunner here, Cody Stoffer, and I am very glad I was able to make it out to a game on Saturday at 1 o'clock this past weekend. That would make it the 18th of November 2023 for the Green Mountain hosting of Roosevelt. This is the 1 versus the 9 seed here in the second round of the 3A playoffs. Roosevelt coming off of a win over Riverdale Ridge. Meanwhile, you look at Green Mountain. So far, they are undefeated this season, and both postseason and regular season, obviously. And in their first round playoff matchup, they overcame the talents of Glenwood Springs, also at home. So let's go ahead and jump right into this here and talk about this Green Mountain game. So to start, Roosevelt will have the ball around their 20-yard line and have a few short runs, but do go 3 and out here and have to punt on 4th and 7. Now, the Rams do get to start in pretty good field position here on the 50-yard line, and then they draw an encroachment to start their drive, setting up for 1st and 5. They have a quarterback keeper up the middle for 3, and then they toss right for about 8 yards and a first down. That is number 5, Max Chaboin, making that play. Now, on the next play, they have another short gain here, but a face mask will push them forward. And all of a sudden, the Rams are in the red zone. They toss left to 3. And then after that, they hand the ball off to 5, who goes right. And then 26 is wrapped up in the backfield by Roosevelt's very own 26. That is linebacker Noel Sanchez here, who's put on a pretty good show here his junior year. But I digress here. It is now 4th and 3 on the 8-yard line with 8 minutes and 14 seconds when Green Mountain burns their first timeout here. They then call a quarterback keeper for a first down. They then try a tush push for a touchdown here, but it gets flagged and pushed back to the 6-yard line. They have a quarterback keeper for 2, and then 2nd and goal on the 4-yard line. They call a sweep right to number 5 that sets up 3rd and inches on the goal line, and they keep coming back to Max Chaboyne here, who does break the plane on the next play, and then they run a play action pass to 20 for the 2-point conversion, and it is now 8-0 with 6:28 in the first quarter. Now Roosevelt on their own 20 to start their next drive rolls out right, and the pass is broken up by number 20 of Green Mountain. It's worth saying his name, George Soppy here, had a very solid game, and had that pass break up right after catching that 2-point conversion. The next run is halted, and now it is 3rd and 10, but Roosevelt has just the remedy for that as they dial up a pass over the middle to Joey Brake, who picks up a ton of yards all the way to the 50-yard line. They call a play action rollout right and find number 23 in the flats. That is Jace Guntle, and he gets out of bounds. But once he's out of bounds, he is hit late by a Green Mountain player, and that unsportsmanlike conduct will give Roosevelt a nice penalty and push them to the 18-yard line in the red zone. They, however, do struggle to gain yards on the next play as the run is brought down for a loss, and after an incompletion, it is now 3rd and 11. They hand off up the middle to try and catch Green Mountain off guard, but the run barely gets back to the line of scrimmage, and on 4th and 10, they attempt a field goal, and that is no good. So Roosevelt's still down 0-8. Green Mountain has the ball on the 20-yard line with 3 minutes and 23 seconds to go in the first. Now, on the very first play, there's a handoff up the middle to 20 who gains 6 yards, but that is immediately derailed by a false start on the very next play. They go right back to Soppy on the very next play, and he picks up another 6 and sets up about 3rd and 4. They call a fake middle option and then pitch left to number 3, who gets a first down to the 42-yard line. That is Dalton Poulignot? I am so sorry. There's some curveballs here, and I'm illiterate, so there's that. But anyways, it is a first down regardless of pronunciation. And then they come out, and on 1st and 10, they try a play action pass, but that will fall incomplete. On 2nd and 10, they hand off to Soppy again, who breaks out to the open field and isn't brought down until he's inside the Roosevelt 10-yard line. And on the very next play, the quarterback Blake Westland keeps it himself, hitting the hole with force and falling forward, breaking the plane. And after a converted PAT, it is now 15-0 with a minute to go in the first. However, Roosevelt, to start their drive, will start on the opposing 38-yard line after a huge kickoff return that puts it in Rams territory, but 2 short runs will end the quarter. And so when we start the second quarter, it is 3rd down and 4 yards to go until the first down marker for the Rough Riders, and they come out in I form, and they call a play-action shot over the middle that is, barely incomplete here. And so now on 4th and 4, they do line up to go for it. They call a read option. Hartson scraps to stay up, but doesn't get the first, and it's a turnover on downs. Now, with 1st and 10 on their own 29-yard line, Green Mountain comes out and calls a counter, but the ball gets popped out, and number 52 for the Rough Riders lands on the football. That is Jax Armstrong, the sophomore here, and giving Roosevelt a second life on the Rams' 30-yard line. And they come out swinging for the fences because Hartson gets the snap, drops back, and lobs it down the left sideline where freshman Noah Lucero wins his one-on-one foot race and scores, closing the gap 7-15. Roosevelt still trailing with under a minute eclipsed in the second quarter. Green Mountain, after a penalty, starts on their own 8-yard line here, and they have a very short handoff and then a swing pass that's brought down at the line of scrimmage, and just like that, it is 3rd and 10 deep in their own territory here, and Westland, when he drops back, his feet are in the end zone, but he winds up and finds his wideout here, Austin Beeson, deep for a huge completion all the way to the Roosevelt 27-yard line. This is like over a 50-yard pass and catch here with him making some moves before finally being dragged down. And right here is where I say, what a freaking game, holy cow, with some different words being used. But we're trying to keep that clean rating here on the pod. Anyways, they also draw an offsides penalty that sets up 1st and 5, but that doesn't really help too much other than making second down more manageable because the Rough Rider defense does hold this first run to absolutely nothing. Westland then keeps on the next play and gains a first for 4, but after a penalty and a quarterback power, they are looking at 3rd and 7, and the run is too short, and it's 4th and 5, and they have to attempt a field goal, and that is good. It is 18-7 now with 2 seconds burned under 6 minutes to go in the first half for Roosevelt to try and get a drive here. Now, on their own 25-yard line to start, they call a screen pass to Xavier Ramirez here, who gains 11 and a first down. They then come out and call a play-action pass to number 7, who gains 6 yards, and then Hartson runs up the middle to set up 3rd and inches, and when they hand off to X, he makes a great cut to get outside the tackle and get a first into Green Mountain territory. Another handoff picks up 5 yards, and then on the following play for Green Mountain, Austin Contreras gets great penetration and forces a 3-yard loss. The Rough Riders come out and they roll right and they pass for a 1st to 4. With 2 minutes and 5 seconds to go at the 36-yard line heading in, they hand off, goes ahead for 4, fighting ahead for every inch. They have another handoff to X, forcing his way forward for a gain of 5 and setting up 3rd and 1, and Roosevelt takes a timeout here with 1 minute and 11 seconds to go. Now, on this 3rd down, 13 and 10 of Green Mountain read and react perfectly and force a loss, setting up 4th and 3. Roosevelt here refusing to give up on the run, and I think that helps them in the big picture here. Hands off the ball to X out of the I formation, and he shows fantastic patience and then bursts at a glimpse of daylight for a first down to the 20, and Roosevelt takes another timeout with 27.9 seconds to go. They call a play action here, and they pass down the right sideline to number 2, who ducks into the end zone and scores for Roosevelt. That is Trevor Carabench here, who scores just before halftime. The 2-point attempt is no good, and that will take us basically into halftime here. Green Mountain leading 18-13 to start the second half here and receiving the football. Or are they? Because when Roosevelt comes out, they come out and they pull the surprise onside kick and recover the football here, giving them the ball right back and a chance to take the lead here in the second half. And that is exactly what they do, as they call a run that's very short, but on the very next play, Bronco Hartson drops back and finds his guy, Noah Lucero, deep down the right sideline here for the touchdown. And after the 2-point conversion is good, Roosevelt is leading in this game for the first time, 21-18. Green Mountain here remaining patient with the ball and not panicking, picking up very small chunks running the football. But on a big play here, a snap gets bobbled, and that leads to a huge loss. But it turns out that doesn't really matter all that much, because when Blake Westland drops back on the very next play, he dials up a big pass to Noel Dacry here, who picks up a huge chunk for a first down into Roosevelt territory. On the next play, they keep it in the air and pick up another first down, this time to number 12, Dax Gomez here. And after a short run on first down, Westland keeps himself and scores. The Rams hand off to 23, who converts for 2. That is Demetrius Padilla, it looks like, in this category. And that is going to be good for the 2-point conversion, like I said. And it's now 26-21 with 6 minutes and 44 seconds left to go. Now, there's a late hit on Green Mountain that sets up Roosevelt on the 24-yard line. So a couple of personal foul penalties against Green Mountain to kind of keep track of heading in further into the postseason. But regardless, they run a read option and picks up about 9, and then they hand off to X, who picks up first down and some more. Fullback run goes for a loss, and then crazy pressure forces an incompletion. They pass right, and it looks like a first down, but they're bringing out the chains, and so we are waiting eagerly to see what the call is, and they pull the chains, and first down, Roosevelt here, and they are feeling good. But on the very next play, they call a play action slant that is actually batted by George Soppy into the air and then is intercepted by Demetrius Padilla. Now Green Mountain with the football on their own 33-yard line and taking advantage with huge momentum. The crowd is absolutely into it. The band is rocking, and Green Mountain is trying to make this a 2-score game. And so with the ball on their own 33-yard line, they toss right to Soppy, who picks up a nice, decent amount of yards, but a holding penalty will push it back. On 1st and 15, the Roosevelt pass rush gets home and forces an incompletion. 2nd and 15, they hand off left to Soppy, who finds the opening and wins the foot race to the end zone. And the Rams now have a 33-21 lead with 3 minutes and 58 seconds left. I want to say that was about a 69-yard run. Nice. For Soppy here to put this game up by 12. Now, down but never out is Roosevelt here, and so they hand off to 21, who picks up 4 yards. But after an incompletion, it's 3rd and 4, and a bad snap makes this look like a very dire situation. But Hartson, being as cool and composed as ever, picks up the snap, remains poised, and finds his guy, number 4, for a first down in a crazy turn of events. On the next play, Soppy here does make a tackle at the line of scrimmage, but on the following handoff, X makes a read, cuts right, and battles ahead for 5 yards. The next play is a play action right, once again finding Joey Brake here for a short gain. On 4th and 1, they hand off left to 21, who picks up the first down. After a run right doesn't go anywhere, that will end the 3rd quarter here. In the 4th quarter, Roosevelt is trailing 33-21 on the 49-yard line going in, and on 2nd down, they call a play action where Hartson escapes the pressure and throws right, but unfortunately is dropped. On 3rd and 10, they pass over the middle to number 2, who is wide open and is on the 24-yard line. After a run is plugged, and after number 10 and 55 for Green Mountain both combine for a sack, that is Contreras and Jacob Parisi here. It is looking desperate. 3rd and 20, they have an incompletion and unfortunately have to punt on 4th and 20. Now Green Mountain is on their own 20-yard line, and they hand off to Soppy, who picks up 5, but then Westland keeps and scores on a 65-yard touchdown run, and a PAT makes it a 3-score game, 40-21 with a hair under 9 minutes to go. Roosevelt starts this next drive on their own 13-yard line, and 26 of Green Mountain strings the play out and eventually brings down Hartson at the line of scrimmage. They bounce back with a gut run for a few yards, and then they pass left for 8 and set up a 4th down where they find Joey Brake for a first down. Hartson looks and decides to run and gain 6, and then they call a screen pass to Xavier Ramirez, who picks up 20 yards and forces Green Mountain to take a timeout with 5 minutes and 39 seconds to go. They have another pass to X that picks up a first down, and then Hartson keeps and gains 6 yards on the following play. After that, there's a miscommunication and an incompletion, so it's now 3rd and 4. They call a quarterback keeper that is just short of the first, and on 4th and 2, call play action bubble to number 6, Jeremiah Romero here, who gets a first down to the 15. They call a double pass that is very well defended and loses approximately 10 yards thanks to the Rams' disciplined defense, and then Hartson tucks and runs left for a nice gain inside the 10-yard line. Roosevelt takes a timeout here, and that is followed by a tackle for loss by Green Mountain. And on 4th and 6, after a couple of incompletions and short gains, there is an interception by number 5 of Green Mountain, who is Max Chaboyne, and that's going to do it for this ball game. Final score from Green Mountain here is Green Mountain 40, Roosevelt 21, so no scores after I left here. And let's talk about some of the performances here. Look, Roosevelt, obviously, great career and run by these Rough Riders, including Bronco Hartson, the senior quarterback, who in his last game of high school football goes 18 of 28 for 284 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. And senior running back Xavier Ramirez going for 57 yards in this loss. But while the door is closing on some of Roosevelt's players here, some of the seniors. This is a very young team here, and that was highlighted by one of the better performers. Noah Lucero, the freshman, goes 6 receptions for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns here. And then Karabesh goes for 56 yards and a score. He's a junior. Now for Green Mountain, they are heading to the semis here, and they do that in huge part thanks to Westland and Soppy, both over 120 yards in this game. Blake Westland rushing for 3 touchdowns and Soppy rushing for 1. Blake Westland, that was actually a 75-yard touchdown. Pardon my mismath there. But that was a 75-yard touchdown, and Soppy also riding a 69-yard touchdown. Austin Beeson was the lead receiver of the day with a 65-yard reception, as notated earlier in the game. Defensively is where the Rams really shine here. Contreras and Westland combined for 25 tackles, and on the day, the Rams have 8 tackles for loss, and then they also have 1.5 sacks between Austin Contreras and Noel Dacris here. They also get 2 interceptions thanks to Max Chaboin that puts the game away. A couple of pass deflections from Soppy and Padilla, who also gets an interception. So all in all, I'd say that Green Mountain was firing on all cylinders. And my takeaways from this game, Roosevelt, I think that when they were allowed to play at their pace, that they were doing really, really well. And they did a great job of sticking to the run and staying balanced against Green Mountain. And that's why they were able to score, I believe, the most points out of any Green Mountain opponent so far this season. Yeah, that is correct. So they were able to score 21. They stayed true to the run, and they were physical up front. And then their passing was very opportunistic and helped them gain a heck of a lot of yards. Like I said, Bronco Hartson goes for 284 passing yards in this game. So, and then over 300 total once you include his rushing totals as well. But on the other side of the football, Green Mountain, they're just huge. Literally front line all the way to the secondary. They play fast, they play violent, maybe a hair dirty with a few late hit calls in this game that I think were completely justified. But ultimately, they're a very physical brand of football, and that has me feeling really good about their odds heading into the next round. But before I talk about any of my predictions, I'm actually going to let Coach V recap the rest of 3A this week and then talk about our predictions. So I will see you later in the show. And Simon will be speaking to you right after a word from one of our sponsors.
Allow me to introduce you to Move the Sticks Virtual Film Academy and Recruiting Services with Coach Wheat. Coach Wheat works through personable, one-on-one film sessions utilizing his experience as a high school, college, and professional football player to assess your level of play and help you develop into the next level player you are meant to be. With over 20 plus players on the next level, Coach Wheat's film sessions, college prospect assessments, recruiting consultations, and bundles will help prepare your prospect in a way that is both more personable and affordable than the competitors. Make it even more affordable using the promo code PMCO on MTSVFA.com. That is 15% off with promo code PMCO on MTSVFA.com. Visit the website or follow at MoveTheSticksVFA on Instagram or reach out to Coach Wheat at 561-961-8805 today. That's 561-961-8805.
What's good, y'all? Coach V here, and I got your 3A recap for the quarterfinals here in these 2023 3A playoffs. We had 4 great games here, and so I'm just going to go down the line and talk about all of them here, starting with Thompson Valley versus Northfield. This was a lot closer of a game than I think most of us would have thought here. But, let's go ahead and talk about it. At halftime, this was a 21-21 game here. Riley Suarez would actually be able to score on a passing touchdown and a 2-point conversion to tie it up right before half. But going into the third quarter, Northfield would get a 43-yard field goal to take the early 24-21 lead, and they would take that going into the fourth here. Thompson Valley would then match them with another field goal here from about 34 yards out at the top of the quarter with about 10 minutes left. But then this is where things really started going Thompson Valley's way. Number 22, Landry Suarez, recovered a fumble from Northfield, and then that would eventually result in Riley Suarez scoring with about under a minute left. Geez, that's almost 5 minutes of game clock getting used there for Riley Suarez to score a touchdown and basically put this thing away as it was unreachable at that point. So there you go there. Thompson Valley surviving, but moving on to the next round, to the semis here for a chance to go to state. For Northfield, definitely a valiant effort, but let's go ahead and look at the stats for Thompson Valley since they're already in. Riley Suarez kind of struggled passing it, but was 4 of 11 for 73 yards and a touchdown. On the ground, though, he was this offense. 28 carries, 247 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, including that one at the end to go ahead and win it there. That was big time for Thompson Valley here. And then on defense, you have Landry Suarez, the sophomore, co-leading in tackles with 10, 3 solo, 7 assists. Christian Chase also had 10 there as well. And then that big fumble recovery from Owen Walsh and blocked field goal by CJ James would be huge in this one for Thompson Valley, as it was all hands on deck in this big-time win. Holy Family, though, they take care of business pretty easily here against Lewis Palmer, 42-17. Rylan Cooney, 11 of 15, 193 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, also had 70 rushing yards and a touchdown. Dominic Gabriel had a good game here with 207 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on 33 carries. For Lewis Palmer, they just couldn't get much going here. Jaden Pagano, though, did have 133 rushing yards and a touchdown, but defensively, they could not stop the firepower of Holy Family as they will be moving on to the next round. So there you go. Those were the Friday games from November 17th. Let's go to the games on Saturday, November 18th here. And we have a good one. Lutheran versus Durango, a rematch of the semis last year, I believe, where Lutheran beat them to go to state. Now, this year, this one was a very good game. 21-16 at half here, as it was back and forth here. Lutheran leading in this one. And to start the second half here, after Durango punts it, they intercept a Lutheran pass only to turn it over on downs a minute later here. And would actually be on Durango's 1-yard line, where Cole Johnson would punch it in for a big-time touchdown to give them the 28-16 lead after the PAT. That was kind of the turning point in this one. Now, Durango wouldn't go down so easily. With 2 minutes left, Tyler Harms completed a touchdown pass to make it 28-22, but the PAT was missed. That is definitely worth noting there. Going into the fourth quarter at the top with 11 minutes left, Lutheran would kick a field goal to make it 31-22 there. Durango would then get another turnover on downs, going for it on fourth, I assume. Lutheran would use up a bit more time. Durango would have another turnover on downs, just not being able to win on fourth down. And then Lutheran would have a Cole Johnson rushing touchdown to make it 37-22. 2-point conversion actually makes it 39-22 to truly put this thing away. Durango would score a touchdown with under a minute left, but it was a garbage time touchdown and would not matter as much, as Lutheran wins in Durango again here and will be going back to the semifinals. Lutheran hasn't put in their stats yet, but for Durango, Tyler Harms didn't do too bad here. 44 pass attempts, completed 24 of those for 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. As far as running the ball went, Tyler Harms was their lead rusher with 66 yards here. And this is kind of where things get interesting. It looks like Jackson Fancher did not play this game, which definitely affects how this game would have went there. So there you go there. A very interesting one. But, you know, Durango were able to get 3 interceptions here. Mason Palmer with 1, Cole Pontine with 2. Just weren't able to quite convert there, as Lutheran, like I said, will move on to the next round of the playoffs. Speaking of the next round here, we have Green Mountain versus Roosevelt. Another matchup, rematch from last year's playoffs here. Cody has already recapped this one as he was there, so make sure you check it out. But Green Mountain wins 40-21. I'm just going to read off Green Mountain's stats here. Blake Westland with a good game, 5 of 7 for 121 passing yards. Also had 127 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. And then senior George Soppy had 145 rushing yards and a touchdown on only 5 carries, which is kind of crazy there, as Green Mountain was able to go ahead and pull this one out here and win by a good margin. And so there you go there. That will be your 3A quarterfinals 2023 playoff recap. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about the 3A semifinal playoff games here. Obviously, only have two. We have Green Mountain versus Lutheran and Thompson Valley versus Holy Family. If you win this game, you go to state. And so let's go ahead and talk about the predictions from everyone here. Let's start with Green Mountain versus Lutheran. I'm going to read off everyone's predictions first. Gino's going with Green Mountain. He says Lutheran has shown weakness this season, while Green Mountain is taking care of every opponent they have faced. I would feel a lot more comfortable if they had CCO, but since that isn't the case, I'm going to go with Green Mountain here by 14 because I trust their defense and consistency more. Gideon says this. He's going with Green Mountain. The Rams are insane. I know that Ryken Doggard went to Durango and took out the Demons, but I trust the Green Mountain team. They stood tall against Roosevelt, along with keeping everything steady against the veteran experience of the Rough Riders. Lutheran has been here before, but Green Mountain is too big, too strong, too ferocious. They cut through every team like Swiss cheese. Luhai does stand a chance, but I have no clue how they will go against the Rams with how strong the defense is as well. It is insane. So there you go there, both of Gino and Gideon going with Green Mountain. Cody will also be going with Green Mountain. He says the Green Mountain defense is as big and physical as they come, and the same can be said about the offense. The Lions line will be the best challenge Green Mountain will have had all year, but watching them, it didn't feel like there was a single weakness on their defense that could be consistently exploited versus the Luhai, where they have more vulnerabilities. It should be an awesome game, but the Rams will clutch it. So there you go there. Everyone else going with Green Mountain. I'm going with Lutheran. I am going to go against the grain. I've done this before. And honestly, look, Lutheran, they're rolling. At this point, you know, they are experienced. I think they're going to be the biggest threat to Green Mountain not winning state this year, to be honest with you. Green Mountain, have a lot of respect for them. They're big. They were a team I previewed along with Lutheran, and I knew they were going to be here in this position. Now, it's unfortunate that they're meeting in the semifinals, but, you know, it is what it is. For Lutheran, though, I like their line. They are one of the few lines at 3A that don't platoon, and so offensive and defensive lines should be fresh. Plus, they got some good size, too, which I think will battle Green Mountain and the height and size that they have. And that's going to be important. I mean, this game is going to be won in the trenches. If they cannot give Ryken Doggard some time and allow Cole Johnson and all the other running backs there to go ahead and perform, then it's going to be an issue, obviously. But if they can, then I think this could be a great game here. I honestly think this Lutheran offense is the best team. Sorry, not just the offense. This Lutheran team is the best team they will face as of now. So there you go there. So everyone else is going Green Mountain. I'm going with Lutheran. I'm going with my gut here. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Green Mountain is really good, but I truly think this is the biggest threat to their chances at state. With that being said, let's talk about the other side of the bracket. We have Thompson Valley versus Holy Family. Let's talk about what everyone else is going to predict here. Cody says this. Holy Family, Thompson Valley plays the level of their opponent, but this just feels like the year Holy Family gets over the hump, having dispatched their opponents with ease and honestly feeling like the most on-fire team in 3A for the past 8 weeks. So there you go there. He's going with Holy Family at this point. Sorry, he said Thompson Valley plays down to the level of other teams. So there you go there. Gideon says this. Having seen both, I'm going to go with Thompson Valley. I like Holy Family, and if they're firing on all cylinders, they could certainly win. I just feel like Thompson Valley is more consistent and bigger, and they're the bigger team. The Eagles will be a tough team to top. They play at the level of their competition for the first half, for better or worse, but then they turn it up in the second half. Rylan and Riley are about the same level. I feel like Thompson Valley has a better line. Marco Lapierre is one of the best players I've seen in person, and I'm not sure who on the Tigers defense can stop him. Both teams have reliable kickers in Cooper Bigelow and Eli Metziger. I like the Eagles to advance to what I believe is the first state championship in school history. So there you go there. Gideon going with Thompson Valley. Gino is going with Holy Family. He says this is almost guaranteed to be a classic game. Both teams have been in some close games over the course of the season, and I think Thompson Valley's secondary matches up very well against Holy Family's offensive attack. But Holy Family has been dominant in both of their first 2 playoff games. Meanwhile, you look at Thompson Valley's first 2 playoff games, and both of them were close. It would take Thompson Valley to play some of their best football of the year to keep this Holy Family squad from continuing to roll into the state final. I like Holy Family by 10 here, so there you go there. He's going Holy Family. I will be going with Thompson Valley. I agree with Gino. I think this will be an instant classic, but I like Thompson Valley's defense better, plain and simple here. I think offensively they can produce, they can win. Riley Suarez is going to have to play a great game here, but he has been so far this season. But we just got to see. I mean, when it comes down to it, I like Thompson Valley's defense stopping Holy Family more than I like Holy Family's defense stopping Thompson Valley. So there you go there. Those are the predictions for the 3A semifinals. Myself and Gina will be able to go to these games here. So we're extremely excited to see how it all goes down and who makes it to state.
What is going on, everybody? It's Gino again, this time coming at y'all with another Game of the Week recap in round 3 of the playoffs in the 4A classification. I traveled out to Don Breeze Stadium, home of the Palmer Ridge Bears in Monument, Colorado, for a matchup between the 1-seeded Bears and the visiting 8-seeded Heritage Eagles. Heritage was coming into this game off a big-time win last Saturday against an extremely tough Golden squad in round 2. They are led by their QB, Kurt Rosner, running back, Jet Belika, and their wide receiver, Tanner Turch on offense. And then on defense, they got playmakers like Nick Long, Turner Graham, and a handful of other players that we will soon be talking about. Together, they make one of the more well-rounded teams in all of 4A with a balanced offensive attack and a hard-hitting defense. Palmer Ridge came into this game undefeated on the season and feeling good after they blew out Denver South in round 2. They are led by their dual-threat QB, Derek Hester, running back, linebacker, Holden Wright, and their wide receiver, defensive back, Jimmer Weir, who are just a few of the leaders of the most dominant team in 4A this season. Palmer Ridge is not a team you can afford to make mistakes against, as time and time again, they have come out and wiped teams out by capitalizing on turnovers and just playing overall clean, well-coached football. Most of these teams have plenty of playmakers on both sides, so with that little intro out of the way, let's all take a trip to Don Breeze Stadium in Monument, Colorado to see how this game shook out. Starting off with the first quarter here, Heritage won the toss and elected to defer, so Palmer Ridge would start with the ball here on their own 27-yard line after number 19, Zeki Wacker, sorry if I mispronounced that, makes a solid effort on the return. Heritage got flagged for encroachment on the first snap of the game, making it 1st and 5 at the Palmer Ridge 32-yard line. The Bears started this drive off, getting it into the hands of one of their top playmakers, number 6, Jimmer Weir, on a screen for 10 yards and a Palmer Ridge first down. They kept it rolling here with a keeper from their QB, number 4, Derek Hester, who takes it for 17 yards into Eagle territory. They weren't done there as Hester hands it off to number 20, Gabe Klein, on first down, and he gets another first down of his own to the Heritage 29-yard line. Heritage finally blew up a run on the following first down. I didn't see who made the tackle, but it is now 2nd and 14. Hester sent Gabe Klein out in motion to the left, and he hits him in stride for a decent gain to make it 3rd and 8. And then he gave it to number 3, Holden Wright, who bullies his way up the middle to give the Bears another first down. Hester sent Weir in motion, and then he nailed him in stride for a big gain and a Palmer Ridge first down at the 5-yard line. On 1st and goal, Hester takes the snap, and he powers his way left for a Palmer Ridge touchdown, his first of the game. Palmer Ridge now leads 7-0 with 8:51 left in the first quarter after number 15, Rhett Armstrong, nailed the PAT. The Eagles let the Rhett Armstrong kickoff go into the end zone for a touchback, giving them the ball on their own 20-yard line to start this drive. Similar to their first defensive possession, the Eagles would start this drive off with a penalty. The holding flag now made it 1st and 20 at the 10-yard line to start their drive. Number 11, Kurt Rosner hit number 29, Jet Belika, on a quick hitter for an 8-yard gain. Then on 2nd and 12, number 27, Jake Ankrum stopped a Jet Belika run at the line to make it 3rd and 12. On 3rd and long, Kurt Rosner drops back to pass and sees Palmer Ridge leaving the middle of the field wide open, anticipating a deep pass. So he just runs it up the middle, down near the first down to make it 4th and 1. The Eagles had their offense out there ready to go for it, but a delay of game penalty got rid of that hope, so they would end up punting here on 4th and 6. A solid punt from number 38, Jace Winkler, put Palmer Ridge at their 14-yard line to start their second offensive drive of the game. Derek Hester handed it off to Gabe Klein on an RPO for 4 yards. Gabe Klein fumbled that carry at the end, but the refs called him down. Hester then handed it off to Holden Wright, and the power back takes that one for a nice gain and a Bears first down at their own 30-yard line. The Bears hurried to the line following that big gain and immediately handed it back off to Holden Wright again, and he gets another 8 yards on that carry. Hester took a keeper on the next snap, and number 42, Reed Schisler, made the tackle close to the line of scrimmage. But Hester got enough for the first down. Hester handed it off to number 23, Javier Elvira, sorry if I mispronounced that, for 8 yards. And then he took a keeper to the Heritage 45-yard line for another first down for Palmer Ridge. Skip ahead a couple of plays, and Hester nailed Holden Wright in stride after sending him in motion for a first down at the Heritage 31-yard line. Skip ahead a couple of plays again, and Palmer Ridge calls timeout on 4th and 9 with 57 seconds left in the first quarter. Coming out of the timeout, Derek Hester drops back to pass and tries to find something, but he got brought down by number 8, Lucas Madrid, for a huge turnover on downs for the Eagles. It's Heritage ball on their own 36 after the turnover on downs. Jepalika took the first down run for 5 yards and then took the second down run out of the shotgun for a big first down into Palmer Ridge territory at the 48-yard line. They handed it off to number 9, Isaac Fring, on first down for 6 yards, and that would take us to the end of the first quarter. Starting off the second quarter here, Heritage would get hit with a false start flag on the first snap of the first quarter to make it 2nd and 9 at the Palmer Ridge 47-yard line. A bad wide-open drop pass on second down, followed by a false start flag that negated a first down pass to number 87, Camden Jensen, made it 3rd and 14. Kurt Rosner overthrew a deep pass intended for number 4, Tanner Turch, and the Eagles would be forced to punt here. Good on Heritage, though, as that would force a rare 3 and out on the Palmer Ridge offense, with number 8, Lucas Madrid, and number 25, Tanner Guthrie, making some big plays to force the punt. Heritage has a bit of life now and a chance to tie the game after the 3 and out, plus a bad punt for Palmer Ridge put the Eagles at the Palmer Ridge 39-yard line to start the drive with 10:47 left in the first half. They started off with a deep pass to number 1, Ben Perrault, sorry if I mispronounced that fell incomplete, and a run to Jepalika on second down, but he gets brought down by number 58, Owen Miranowski, to make it 3rd and 10. On 3rd and 10, Rosner hit his favorite receiver, Tanner Turch, who makes a toe-touch first down at the 27-yard line. Skip ahead a few run plays, and it's 4th and 1 now. On 4th and 1, Rosner hands it off to Jepalika, but that 4th down run got blown up by number 64, Court Towns, who forces the huge turnover on downs. It is now Palmer Ridge ball at their own 18-yard line with 7:40 left in the first half. Gabe Klein took the first down run for 4 yards, but he got a bit shaken up on that play, so he is now headed for the sideline. Following the injury timeout, Javier Elvira got a big first down run to the Bears' 38-yard line. Skip ahead a few plays, and Heritage is still playing solid defense. It's 4th and 3 now as Palmer Ridge hustles to the line, and they try a QB sneak that just barely gets the first down at the Palmer Ridge 48-yard line. Derek Hester took a power right for 4 yards, and then he hit Jimmer Weir on a screen, and Weir breaks a tackle and hustles his way for a 19-yard gain. Heritage called timeout following that big gain with 4:33 left in the half. On first down at the Heritage 30, a Holden Wright run is blown up by number 34, Caleb Hartzell, to make it 2nd and 11. Derek Hester hit Jimmer Weir for a first down pass, but a holding call made it 2nd and 21 now. On 2nd and long, Hester drops back to pass and looks deep for a big play, but Heritage is bringing pressure. Hester then avoids 2 potential sacks and breaks loose for a Palmer Ridge 1st and goal at the 9-yard line. On 2nd and goal at the 6-yard line, Holden Wright takes the carry and muscles his way up the middle for a Palmer Ridge touchdown. It is now 14-0 after the Armstrong PAT with 2:36 left in the first half. It was another touchback on the kickoff, so it is Eagle ball at their own 20. A first down pass to Camden Jensen was dropped, but on 2nd down, Kurt Rosner dropped a beautiful deep pass to Tanner Turch while under pressure, plus in pass interference call on Palmer Ridge made it 1st and 10 at the Palmer Ridge 30-yard line. Heritage once again threatening deep in Palmer Ridge territory. Number 22, Luca Pesola took a first down run for a yard, followed by a quick hitter to Jet Belika to make it 3rd and 4. Heritage called timeout following that run with 1:29 left in the half. Following the timeout, a Kurt Rosner pass to number 9, Isaac Fring, is overthrown to make it 4th and 4. So the Eagles call another timeout with 1:25 left in the half. Coming out of the timeout on 4th and 4, Rosner drops back to pass, has a man over the middle, but the pass is tipped and incomplete, making it another turnover on downs for this Heritage offense. It is now Palmer Ridge ball at their own 23-yard line. Palmer Ridge can either run this clock out or try and add to their lead. Let's see what they ended up doing. They started off with a run to Holden Wright, who takes that for 13 yards into 1st down. Derek Hester's pass on 1st down is nearly picked, but falls incomplete, and then a handoff to Holden Wright again on 3rd down for a nice gain to make it 3rd and 1 with the clock still ticking. On 3rd and short, Hester takes the snap, runs it right, finds a hole, and he breaks free for a Palmer Ridge touchdown, his 2nd of the half. The Bears now lead 21-0 after they sneak in one last touchdown before the half with 25 seconds left to go before halftime. Another touchback on the kickoff made it 1st and 10 at the 20-yard line to start this Heritage drive. They started off with a Belika run for a 1st down to the Heritage 32, and they would call their 3rd and final timeout of the half with 20 seconds remaining. Rosner then hit Belika on a slant coming out of the timeout for a 1st down, plus a late hit made it 1st and 10 at the Palmer Ridge 41-yard line. Rosner hit Turch on the next play, who tries to make something happen, but he would end up going down here as the halftime buzzer sounds. At halftime, Palmer Ridge is dominating this one so far as they lead Heritage 21-0. Heritage was unable to take advantage of 2 drives where they got deep into Palmer Ridge territory, but they were unable to get any sort of points on either of those drives. Let's jump into the second half now to see if the Eagles can make this one interesting. Heritage would get the ball on the 20-yard line here coming out of halftime after yet another touchback from Rhett Armstrong. They tried a pitch to number 46, Mo Fennell, but he got tripped up by Jet Ziegler to make it 2nd and 9. On 2nd and long, it's Mo Fennell again, who this time takes that carry to the Heritage 33-yard line for a 1st down. A false start flag made it 1st and 15, and on 1st down, Rosner completed a pass to Tanner Turch for 3 yards. Another false start flag on Heritage made it 2nd and 17. Rosner completed a pass on 2nd down to Jet Belika for 3 yards, and then went deep on 3rd down, but that pass got broken up by Jimmer Weir, who made a great play on the ball there. The Heritage parents were booing and screaming for a PI call, but they wouldn't get it. The Eagles would end up punting here. Jimmer Weir called the fair catch at the Palmer Ridge 28-yard line, and that is where they will start this drive. Number 48, Nick Long, made a huge hit on a 1st down run from Ethan Klein to make it 2nd and 6. They then tried a deep pass to Jimmer Weir over the middle, but that pass was tightly covered by number 25, Tanner Guthrie, to make it 3rd and 6 now. On 3rd down, Hester has Weir deep again, but that pass is overthrown to make it 4th and 6. The Bears set up to punt here, but they showed that they aren't going to settle with a punt as Rhett Armstrong takes the snap and drops a beautiful pass to Javier Elvira for a Palmer Ridge 1st down at the Heritage 38-yard line following that fake punt. Skip ahead a few plays, and it is 3rd and 7 as Palmer Ridge calls a timeout with 7:06 left in the 3rd quarter. Coming out of the timeout, Derek Hester takes the snap, fakes the handoff twice, and takes it himself for a nice gain and a first down at the Heritage 25-yard line. Skip ahead a couple of plays. On 3rd and 2, Hester drops back to pass and finds number 13, Nick Toft IV, over the middle, and he runs that in for his first touchdown of the season. That's Derek Hester's third of the day, as that touchdown and the Rhett Armstrong PAT puts Palmer Ridge up 28-0 with 5:32 left in the game. That Palmer Ridge 28-point lead felt very, very secure in my eyes at this point. So it is at this point in the game where I peaced out and headed to my car. But some final thoughts here on each team before I check out here. For Palmer Ridge, this was just a signature win for them. They controlled basically this entire game with their efficient offensive attack and their clutch play on defense. Derek Hester didn't have to do much with his arm in this one, as he was getting first down carry after first down carry on the ground, with Holden Wright, Ethan Klein, and Javier Elvira sprinkling in some nice runs of their own. I was also really impressed with Jimmer Weir on both sides as well. On offense, it is clear that he is the go-to guy for big plays and clutch scenarios, with Derek Hester constantly looking for him on 3rd down and on deep passes. Defensively, he held down a secondary that really only allowed one big throw and catch from Kurt Rosner to Tanner Turch, forcing Rosner to settle with quick passes and checkdowns for most of the game. They even had 2 drives with Heritage threatening deep in their territory, but their defense held firm and didn't allow any points. I'm not really sure anybody can beat Palmer Ridge in this current state with how hard it is to stop their offense and just how few mistakes they make on both sides of the ball. They will be facing a Broomfield team next week that is definitely capable of an upset, as they have a ton of playoff experience, but I think Palmer Ridge is a championship-bound team at this point after finally getting to see them in person. That is a very well-coached and well-executed team that is ready for a championship. Some final thoughts here on Heritage. Not a great way to end the season for the Eagles. Palmer Ridge is obviously a tough opponent, but I really felt like their offense just had nothing going for them all game long. Both of their drives into Palmer Ridge territory in the first half were helped by penalties, and it was just quite clear that overall Palmer Ridge was the better and more prepared team in this game. The Heritage defense played tough and even held Palmer Ridge to under 40 points for the first time since week 1. But even that wasn't enough, as the Eagles just couldn't get a groove going on offense. The run game wasn't anything to write home about either, as Heritage was in too many 3rd down scenarios to even count. The Eagles simply got outplayed in this one, and that's really all there is to it. Congratulations to Heritage on another great season, though, and I want to wish the absolute best luck to the Eagles seniors on whatever it is you will be pursuing next. It has been an honor and a pleasure to be able to cover what you all accomplished this season. With those final thoughts out of the way, it is time for me to pass this mic off. This is Gino with Playmakers Corner checking out, and I will see you all next week. Peace out.
What's good, y'all? Coach V here, and I got your recap for this quarterfinal playoff game, between Dakota Ridge and Erie. Dakota Ridge going to Erie, and this happened on November 18th, 2023. That is a Saturday. Let me go ahead and set the stage here going into this game. Erie, off of a bye, goes ahead and hammers Rampart 52-0 to get here. And Dakota Ridge, not off of a bye, but they are off of bye. They get a very impressive win over Thomas Jefferson, 52-28 here, looking to keep it rolling going into this game. And so let me go ahead and hop into this recap here to start. Dakota Ridge starts off with the ball, and they have a pretty steady dose of sophomore running back Landon Cowsbeck. Gets them multiple first downs here to get them going here. Eventually, they do kind of find themselves here in Erie territory, and so here's what happens. Let me go ahead and go to a 4th down and 4 play here. Blake Palladino in at quarterback. He goes ahead and calls a little hard count here, which is enough, to get Erie to jump off sides, and that gives Dakota Ridge another key first down on this play. Now, Palladino on the next play, he goes ahead and runs a sweep left. He fumbles again here. His second of this drive, he fumbled earlier on, but they were okay there. But once again, they are okay here, and so they recover it. Then they hand it off to Cowsbeck right. He goes for 2. Following that here, 3rd and 6 here, Palladino, he throws it, and it is deflected here by an Erie corner. And so here we go, 4th and 6, ball on the 21 here. Dakota Ridge decides to kick it after an Erie timeout, their first of the half, by the way, at 2:55. But they kick it, and it is blocked. And so here we go, Erie, they take over on the 30 here. They go ahead and start this drive out with a nice pitch right to Gavin Lusk, the running back, and he goes ahead and goes for 9. Blake Barnett would go ahead and give them that first down on a scramble left here to get them going, though. Following that, Barnett on another run here, this time a quarterback design run right up the middle, goes for 11. That gets him across midfield for another first down. He then hits Alex Sweeney on a quick screen. That would give them their 3rd straight first down here of this drive. After a quick hit to Alex Sweeney here, Blake Barnett, he goes ahead and drops back. He scrambles all the way right here before reversing fields here and just making all these Dakota Ridge players miss for a huge 20-plus yard touchdown where, like I said, he went all the way right and then came back all the way left, and he scored, making it 7-0 with 43.6 seconds left here in the first quarter. Now, Dakota Ridge, they tried to get something going here, and they do. They get a nice first down on 3rd down, that is Blake Palladino finding number 10, Alex Arnold, on the slant. Following that, it is 4th and 2 here. Dakota Ridge decides to go for it. They call a jet sweep left to number 25 here. That is Cole Ellinger here. He just barely gets enough for the first down there. Let's go ahead and go to 3rd and 6 here. Palladino, he drops back, and he finds Cole Ellinger up the seam, who's wide open, but it appears to be a dropped pass here. It might have been, now that I looked at the replay, though, it looked like that Palladino just barely overthrew it by an inch here. Either way, just a misconnection. He was wide open. That would have been a touchdown. And so, unfortunately, Dakota Ridge is forced to punt it. And so, Erie, they take over off the 20 after the touchback here to get going. And here's what happens. 2nd and 10 here. Blake Barnett drops back. He then decides to scramble, breaks a lineman's ankles here, and then gets a huge first down that will put them on the 40. Let's go ahead and fast forward a couple plays here. Barnett, he throws a couple of short passes that go for a couple of yards. Gavin Lusk gets a couple handoffs here. Eventually, it gets down to 4th and 2. I believe they are just over midfield. And so here's what happens. Blake Barnett on the keeper. He falls forward. He gets the first down. Following that, Barnett, he throws the out route right to number 1, Alex Sweeney. He gets another first down. But unfortunately, there's a flag for ineligible man downfield, so now it's 1st and 15 again. They toss a left to Gavin Lusk. He gets 6. And then following that play, they're about on the 30-ish, maybe 20-ish yard line in that area on that edge of the red zone. Here's what happens. Blake Barnett, he drops back, spins basically for no reason, runs right, and then throws it across his body and across the field. A very risky pass and a little bit of a wobbler here to Donovan O'Brien. But O'Brien, he makes a couple defenders miss here, just winning 1-on-1, and he scores, making it 14-0. Erie leading with 1:45 left here in this first quarter off of 2 pretty crazy plays by Blake Barnett. Now, Dakota Ridge, they get the ball back here, and they tried to get something going here, but unfortunately, they get to a 4th and 12 here. They are across midfield, by the way, about to get into the end zone, the red zone here. And Blake Palladino drops back, and he throws a great ball, a slant over the middle, but it is just dropped here. And so that kills more momentum there. That's 2 straight drives for Dakota Ridge where they just have missed opportunities off of drops or miscommunication. And so Erie, they go ahead and take over with about 40-ish seconds left here in the second quarter. So there you go there. Also, now that I'm looking at this, I realize I never marked where the first quarter ends. But doesn't matter. Erie, they scored 2 touchdowns here in this first half. Crazy plays. And that's where they are at to start the third quarter, where they actually get the ball to start here. A nice return will put them on the 39-yard line. let's go ahead and fast forward a couple plays. They run the ball here a lot, so you're not missing a whole lot. Gavin Lusk does get a great run right up the middle for about 20 there. And eventually they get into the red zone where they just hand it off to Gavin Lusk, who pounds it in, giving them the 21-0 lead. Not 21-0 lead. They go for 2, and I don't know why they did that because it's no good. So it's a 20-0 lead here, but still a 3-score game. Now, at this point, Dakota Ridge, they are looking to get something going here. And it starts off pretty okay here. On a 3rd and 5 situation, Blake Palladino runs forward to give them a first down. Then they call a little flea flicker here. Blake Palladino decides to just check it down to Alex Arnold, who still gets the first down, putting them on the 46 there. And then after a couple of tough penalties here, false start, that would make it 2nd and 15. They go ahead and hand it off to Landon Kausbeck, but he is stopped for a loss. Tackled by number 75. That is Cade Koblenz here of Erie. And so now it's 2nd and 17. And on this 2nd and 17, Dakota Ridge gets a little bit too greedy. They throw basically a jump ball. This is like triple coverage almost. And Blake Barnett at safety makes an excellent play and just intercepts this one. And so Erie takes over on the 15 here. Let's go ahead and fast forward a number of plays because they basically just nickel and dime down the field, running the ball, passing here and there, but mostly just running the ball. Fast forward to the 4th quarter, Erie is in a 2nd and goal situation here on the 6. Blake Barnett, he dives, he's stopped for a loss, and then I think Blake Barnett here goes ahead on the quarterback sneak, and he scores on the touchdown. Couldn't quite see here as it was a big jumbled mess here. But what I do know is that Blake Barnett on the 2-point conversion finds Gavin Lusk on a little drag/slant route that gives them the 2-point conversion and the 28-0 lead here. And that is basically the end of this game as Erie just kind of dominates this entire thing and wins 35-7. Let me go ahead and get to the takeaways here. Let me start with Erie. Erie, look, they're lucky they have Blake Barnett because those 2 plays, those scoring drives in the first half, which they didn't get a lot of scoring opportunities or offensive opportunities. I think they only had maybe 3 or 4, which is kind of crazy to think about there. But on 2 of those, Blake Barnett just made a play. And Dakota Ridge, I mean, they were there. They missed some tackles. They missed a lot of tackles, I would say. But when you have great athletes on the field there's not too much more you could do and scheme for. I mean, you got to make tackles, right, to win games. And that's what it came down to. And so Erie, took that early 2-score lead. And that's just really tough to come back from as his defense is pretty well coached as well. But, for Dakota Ridge, they also had... Sorry, let me talk about Erie a little bit more here. Their defense played well enough, and they were able to run the ball. Blake Barnett, he did his thing. That's basically the story of the game for them. They're moving on to the next round of the playoffs. For Dakota Ridge, I mean, this was a game where you needed to be on your P's and Q's here, and they just weren't defensively. Offensively, it wasn't that bad. They had a couple drives where they got into the red zone, but just weren't able to get anything in that first half. And it wasn't because Erie was playing insane defense. It's because, I mean, you had a couple drops, right? You weren't blocking as good as you could have. They tried to run the ball as well, and they just couldn't get a lot there. When they passed it, they found some success, but just some shaky performances from some of those receivers out there. So just a tough go. And, when you get down to a team like Erie, and it doesn't help that, they received in, to start the second half, and they scored right away. So you're down 20-0 there. That's a tough deficit to come back from in Erie against that team. And I mean, Blake Barnett, he's a good safety as well. I think that's something that I really want to emphasize too. So you can't just throw it downfield a ton. He's going to read that. And I mean, throwing in general, he's going to read that for the most part. And I mean, it just got them. Erie's the better team. They were the better team here in Dakota Ridge. Unfortunately, played really well against Thomas Jefferson, but just couldn't quite get over this Erie front seven and just had a lot of missed opportunities in that first half that would have changed this game. So there you go there. Do want to give a quick shout out to our guy, Blake Palladino. I realized when I was at this game that I covered his first start at Dakota Ridge last year against Pueblo West. And then I also covered his last start here against Erie. Blake Palladino, he's a good kid. Excited to see him at UNC, Northern Colorado. Go Bears. But just a tough go. He played well as well as he could have for the most part. And for Dakota Ridge, I think they're going to be fine going into next year. They're going to have Cowsback, who I think is really good. They're going to have Sam Callis at running back, who got hurt very early on in the season. So they're going to be able to run the ball, and I know they're returning some linemen here, but obviously losing guys like Blake Palladino, Jack Stewart, that is going to be a tough go there. But that'll wrap up this recap here. Like I said, Erie wins big here, dominating this one 35-7 to move on to the next round of the playoffs.
Obviously, you want a trainer who can make you stronger and faster with the work you put in, but what about a trainer who can help you rehab and recover like the pros? Look no further than Junkyard Training, that not only offers specific strength and speed training, but also offers a plethora of recovery and rehab techniques like cryo, cupping, recovery boots, and so much more. Learn more today by visiting junkyardtraining.net or call 303-521-7594. Once again, visit junkyardtraining.net or call 303-521-7594 and get started today.
What's good, y'all? Coach V here, and I got your 4A quarterfinal playoff recap for this 2023 postseason. Not a lot of close games here. Not a lot of close games. I also recapped Erie versus Dakota Ridge, so make sure you check that one out. That should have played already, so let me go ahead and hop into it. First off, we got Palmer Ridge versus Heritage. Gino was at this game, so actually check that one out as well here. But I'm just going to read off the stats here. Palmer Ridge obviously won big, 28-7 here. Was up by 28 basically in that second half. And, I mean, it wasn't close, right? Derek Kester in this one, 10 of 19, 104 passing yards, a touchdown. Also had 139 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns there. Holden Wright adding on 75 yards and a touchdown. For Heritage, Kurt Rossler, 22 of 36, 196 yards and an interception. Also had 40 rushing yards as he led for this team there, but obviously not enough as Palmer Ridge takes care of business on Friday night against Heritage. Now, the other 3 games happened on Saturday here. I already talked about this one just a little bit here, but Erie versus Dakota Ridge. Erie wins this one big, 35-7 here. Blake Barnett having a great game in this one, starting out with a rushing touchdown and passing touchdown to give them the early 14-0 lead. And then they just never looked back from there. So there you go there. Montrose, they go ahead and they host Windsor here. And this one was not super close at all, to be completely honest with you. Blake Griffin would get it started with 2 rushing touchdowns in the first half here. Would also get the 2-point conversion with 8 minutes left in the second. Windsor would score thanks to a Mikey Munn rushing touchdown, but it would be 14-7 at halftime. Following that, though, Blake Griffin would go ahead and punch in another rushing touchdown to give them the 20-7 lead here, and then would get another rushing touchdown to make it 26-7 with 11 minutes left in the fourth. At this point, it was basically over as Blake Griffin scored all of Montrose's touchdowns in this one. Also, Montrose wins this one 26-7 and pretty easily at home. So there you go there. Now, Broomfield, they go ahead and take on Mesa Ridge here. And this was just not a close game here. I mean, Broomfield, they really pulled away here in this third quarter. And they would eventually win this one 38-6. Darian Jackson and C.T. Worley still splitting snaps here, which is interesting. Darian Jackson, 10 of 15, 150 yards. And then C.T. Worley, 8 of 9 for 56 yards and a touchdown. Also had 24 rushing touchdowns 24 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Brett Harris with 43 rushing yards and a touchdown as he led this team in rushing. And, I mean, they just took care of business here. Mason Smiley, though, 2 interceptions, 3 pass deflections. One of those interceptions was a pick 6, which you absolutely got to respect there. Definitely in the running for Playmaker of the Week. So, there you go there. That is your 2023 4A quarterfinal Colorado High School Football postseason recap. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about the 4A 2023 Colorado High School Football Semifinal Predictions. Only got 2 games here. I'm going to talk about everyone else's predictions first and then talk about mine. Let's start with Palmer Ridge versus Broomfield. Cody says this. He's going with Palmer Ridge. He said the Bears are so well disciplined on both sides of the ball. And after my faith was earned for Heritage, the Bears reminded the Eagles what the real pecking order is in 4A. And we'll do the same to another set of Eagles this week. So there you go there. Gideon is also going with Palmer Ridge. He says all year the Bears have been inevitable. Despite all of the changes, they have made it back to this point. All they need to do is win one more game. Broomfield have the experience, and I don't expect them to go down without a fight. C.T. Worley is a big-time player, and Tyler Cruz having a big season, but I don't see them being able to topple Derek Hester, Jimmer Weir, and Holden Wright. This season has been a crash course between 2 teams, the Bears and one more. Gino is also going with Palmer Ridge. He said, having seen the Bears play in person against Heritage last week, I'm not sure anyone can stop these guys. Between the clutch plays, big offensive line, and well-rounded defense, Palmer Ridge is a team that capitalizes on other teams' mistakes while making very few of their own. Broomfield has a ton of playoff experience to maybe shake things up, but I still like Palmer Ridge here by 13. I'm also going with Palmer Ridge here. Look, Broomfield, they've continued to roll. They're running this 2-quarterback system. I am going to be shocked if this 2-quarterback system continues to work this deep in the playoffs. For Palmer Ridge, they're extremely well coached. They're going to play the run well. I think this is going to be a close game. It's going to come down to how well this Palmer Ridge defense plays this Broomfield offensive line, who's big and nasty and going to open up a lot of opportunities. And that's going to be key for this game. But Palmer Ridge has been really good stopping the run. They have some great linebackers and safeties who will come down and do that. On top of that, this Broomfield defense is a little suspect to me. We'll see. I think I could definitely see Broomfield winning it if they just control the line and run out this clock and do a good job there. But we'll see. I got to go with Palmer Ridge, though. I got to go with Palmer Ridge. So there you go. A clean sweep as far as predictions go for Palmer Ridge. Now let's talk Montrose versus Erie here. Cody's going with Erie. He says this is Barnett's last chance to bring a state title to Erie, and there's been some fortune on his side so far these playoffs to make that happen. This Tigers defense feels better than last season, and in general, they are no way more battle-hardened from this season than last, which I think helps them finish the job in a close game in the semis this go-around. Gideon is also going with Erie. He said, I will own up to the fact that I was wrong about Montrose against Windsor. Cortland Nelson and Blake Griffin are huge. I was wrong last week, but I honestly think Erie isn't as good defensively as Windsor. But guys like Preston Terranova more than pull their weight. The Tigers have a much superior offense, though. Blake Barnett always manages to find a way. Always. Erie has been on the championship momentum all season. Montrose has a good chance. They win 45% of the time, but Erie has a lot going for them here. Erie by 7. Gino is also going with Erie. He says not only is this Blake Barnett's last chance at a state ring, but throw in the fact that Erie has already beaten Montrose in Montrose. And yeah, I like Erie in this one. Montrose is a tough run attack to stop, but Erie has hyper momentum on their side of the matchup. Give me Erie by 10. I will also go with Erie here. I mean, look, they stopped a Dakota Ridge team who ran all over Thomas Jefferson, who has been good against the run this season. And so for them to shut down the Dakota Ridge rushing offense is huge for me. And I think they could do the same to Montrose here. For the offensive side of the ball, I trust Blake Barnett to find a way. That's it. Find a way to win this one. Get back to state. Go from there. So there you go there. That is your 4A 2023 semifinal predictions. Super excited for state. We will see what happens.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. I'm Gideon, and today we're going to recap the 5A Elite 8 matchup between the Chatfield Chargers and the Grandview Wolves. And before we start, I'm going to give a disclaimer. So I go to college in Fort Collins, and I left FOCO at 4:30 to get to Legacy Stadium at 6. And I ended up getting to Legacy Stadium at about 7:05, and I got on the field at about 7:15. So I missed a good portion of the first quarter. But from there, I was locked in. And so with that out of the way, here is our recap, starting with 7:26 left in the first, where Grandview went offsides and then allowed a touchdown, going down 0-7 with 6:26 on the board. Chris Blanks got a 40-yard run-in before Liam Zarka threw to Zay Neto for 15. Zarka then carried himself for a 28-yard touchdown, and then he faked the PAT and ran around the right side and snuck in the corner for an 8-7 lead here with 4 minutes left in the first quarter. AJ Maroney got a tackle, as did Jack Narenbayar, before Mason Pryor got one. Alex Crounce stopped a runner by getting at his knees, but the Wolves allowed a touchdown in short order to go down 8-14 with 24 seconds left, and the score remained that to end the first. In the second, Donovan Vernon ran for 7 before Zarka threw to Kyler Vaughn for 8. Vaughn ran for 12 before Holding brought back a 10-yard catch. Zarka threw to Neto for 11 before Vernon got tush-pushed for 5. After a timeout with 6:26 on the board, Grandview allowed a chase-down sack to make it 3rd and long. After another play, Broomfield took a timeout with 5:33 left and went for it on 4th and 22, which resulted in a turnover on downs. Jackson Flores got a tackle, and then Brandon Carr got one before Marcus Nesbitt and Kalongo Wakalanji got in on one back-to-back. And Grandview was set to go to defend on a 4th and inches stand within the 30. However, a DT went offsides, which was heavily debated by the Grandview coaches, but I was standing on the line of scrimmage. It was certainly offsides. The Wolves then allowed a touchdown to go down 8-21 with 2:34 on the board here in the second quarter. Zarka then threw for 23 and then hit a dime to Neto for a 52-yard touchdown, cutting into the lead 15-21 after Kyle Chavez hit the PAT with 1:48 left. On defense, after forcing a punt, Zarka threw to Vaughn for 15 yards in 2 consecutive plays, but this momentum didn't really go anywhere as it resulted in a spike and a false start heading into halftime. In the third, Brody Flores got a tackle, followed by Wakalanji heading a group tackle for loss. Carr got a tackle, and then Wakalanji got around the quarterback's legs for a sack, which helped to force a punt. After going 3 and out, Zarka punted for 40, and he actually got hit on this one by 2 players, but there wasn't a flag, which I found pretty interesting. That should probably have been a roughing the kicker. And then Marcus Stevens, he got a tackle for loss before Wakalanji shared a tackle with Nesbitt. Carter Curtin managed to punch out the ball, forcing a fumble, which was recovered, which helped to force a punt before Grandview allowed a really, really dumb safety, which I'm not even fully sure was a safety, if I'm being honest, because I've never seen a play like that. And they were down 15-23 with 2:54 left. Chavez's kickoff went for 55, and then Jericho Andrews got a pass deflection before Grandview allowed another touchdown, going down 15-30 with 2:33 left. Neto returned the kickoff for 20 yards, and then on a trick play, which was a fake punt, Vaughn passed Chase Chapman for 22 yards on the right side, rolling out. And then after a roughing the passer penalty, Zarka threw to Neto for a 12-yard touchdown on the left side, which Neto just snagged out of the air over the defender's head. Highlight of the year, if I'm being honest. And it looked like the air got knocked straight out of him. He landed right on his back. And then Chavez hit the PAT, making it 22-30 with zeros on the clock in the third. In the fourth, Marcus Stevens got a tackle, and then Maroney got one as well. And on offense, Grandview allowed a sack before Zarka punted for 30. Wakalanji got a tackle and then helped to force a punt before Zarka threw a dime to Vaughn, which was initially bobbled, but Vaughn snagged it in the end and ran for 80 yards and a score, breaking a tackle, beating all of the DBs that Chatfield had. But the conversion was off. making it only a 2-point game at 28-30 with 8:59 left. Wakalanji actually got hurt on the kickoff, so this kickoff was insane. So Cal Chavez kicked it. It went to about 50 yards. And then it bounced, and then a Chatfield player managed to get fingertips on it. But he was hit before he could properly catch it. And so then there was some controversy surrounding who actually got the ball. But Chatfield eventually did recover it. And then Wakalanji, the very first play that he was allowed back in the game, he got a tackle before Carr got one. And then the Wolves did allow one last score here, which was a 60-yard touchdown run, making it 28-37 with 3:29 on the board. And then Zarka, he threw to Vaughn for about 15, but on another reception there was a fumble, and that was about all that was left in this matchup. Grandview took a couple of timeouts to get those 5 more minutes, but that was it for the 2023 Grandview Wolves season. And on to the players who got the biggest moments in the biggest game so far of the year. We're going to start with our defensive playmaker of the game for Grandview, Kalongo Wakalanji, who was huge for the Wolves. He was the defensive heartbeat of this squad, and it felt like wherever his energy was where the defense was as a whole. And it was up the entire time he was in the game. Whenever he was subbed out or taken out, that's when the defense started to slack a little bit. And, I mean, he got his fair share of tackles and a sack, and the Air Force commit put on a show for his last outing in, I guess he'll still be in the blue and white, but in this darker shade of blue and white. Here is Wakalanji on this matchup.
It took your fair share of upsets to get to this point, to keep on fighting, get to the Elite Eight. What was your favorite moment from this season?
Favorite moment? Probably getting that upset on Regis. That was pretty cool, I think. That was a pretty close game, pretty fun game. Had that boy Donovan with a nice catch at the end. That was a pretty fun moment for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was a big one. That busted my bracket, that's for sure. But
yeah.
If there's one thing to learn from the season, it's not to count Grandview out.
Nope.
How do you think this team's going to move forward in next year without yourself, Liam, and a bunch of other dudes?
I think it'll still be a good team, you know. We always rebuild. Just got to start rebuilding now, start working. We're going towards the summer again. And we always have grit and find a way, so that's all we can do, man.
All right. And I'm a CSU Ram, so I'll be seeing you in Fort Collins here a couple of times over the next couple of years. How does it feel to be able to go to college with your high school teammate?
It's a pretty cool experience, but I think high school football is always going to have a special place in my heart. And yeah, I enjoyed the ride, and kind of sad that it's over.
Yeah, Kalongo, that is more than understandable. I remember the last time I put on my jersey in high school, and I remember the feeling taking it off for the last time and knowing that I'd probably not do it again. So being able to continue that is a gift, but I understand having that in a special place in your heart. And somebody who is going to have one more year with the Grandview Wolves to try and get them to the top of the mountain is Zay Neto, who is our offensive playmaker of the game in this matchup. And I'm going to be straight up with you guys here. Zay Neto is one of the top receivers I've seen. He's up there with Ishmael Cece, Owen Mellish, Jeremiah Hoffman, and Joey Foote. And I'm not fully sure what he can't do on the field. And he's proved in this matchup, to me at least, that he has it. He had two touchdown catches for 108 yards in this game. 108 yards, 2 touchdowns. And he's going to be the leader of this team's skill position core heading forward. He's going to be the longest tenured, top of the depth chart at that position at least. And here's Neto on what to expect this offseason from the Grandview Wolves to try to battle back to this position next season.
I'm going to let you know, you're the first player to hit me during a game, so congratulations on that one.
Oh, yeah.
But that aside, you got that absolute snag in the end zone, just reached out. That shit was yours. What did that moment feel like?
That moment just felt like executing and doing my job, That's something I've worked before, something I've practiced, and something my team and my coaches have faith in me, and that's a play I can make. So it just felt like routine, almost like practice again, just coming out here and executing.
That makes sense. And, obviously you have a lot of high-level guys around you this year. You're going to have to adjust next year without Liam at the helm. How are you going to help carry forward your experience and your leadership throughout the off-season and into next year?
Just because we all have weights class together, we all have weights class together, we all see each other, so this is still a time where I could be a leader, make sure we're just preparing ourselves for next year, because, that starts now, so.
And Zay, you are 100% right there. The off season starts now for you guys, and I'll get a little bit more later in our summary section after the Chatfield part of this recap, so you can listen in later about the future of this team. But this is a team that I think is going to be really up there next year. And Zay is going to be a really big reason why. He's been a baller, and he's going to continue to be a baller for this team. And I mentioned him there for a moment. He's actually been mentioned twice in these questions. And he's our playmaker of the game, Liam Zarka, who's going to be really, really hard to replace. Now, Zarka, I think he may be at the top of the list of the best players I have seen in person. He has gotten over Tell Wade, he's gotten over Jordan Neeson, and he's over Blake Purchase. He was insane. 271 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, a rushing score, a conversion. I can't fully explain through words how good he was in this matchup. And he's going to be with Wakalanji at Air Force, and I really can't wait to see what Zarka does in Colorado Springs, because that team with him at the helm here in a year or two, that is going to be insane. And yeah, here's Zarka on this season, this game, and his career.
Tonight, you were the spark of energy that this team needed. You connected for a few touchdowns with your receivers, and you did your best to prolong this fight for as long as you could to try to get to the next round. What was your thought process coming into this game?
It was going to be a tough game this late in the season, and we kind of we have to play a complete game. And I think tonight, myself, I don't think I played complete myself, and so it can only be my fault from there on out. And so I tried my best. I tried my best, but sometimes your best is not what you can do. And so I just love my teammates, and I'm excited I could be there with them.
And you'll be able to continue improving on the next level with Air Force, one of the top teams in the Mountain West Conference. How does it feel? Because Colombo's, he's going there as well, right?
Yeah.
How does it feel to be able to get to that next level with one of your teammates?
It's just the friendships you make and the bonds you make in high school are just something else. And so when you have a guy like that close to you, I grew up playing youth football with him, coming to school with you, it's an amazing feeling just knowing I have somewhere there to help me out and get through the next level.
And to close it off, what's been your favorite moments of your high school career?
I think my favorite moment would probably be just after any win, like the energy's high and your team is just kind of won and you all just love each other. And it's the best moment I think any high school sport is, just winning, and after the game.
Yeah, Liam, I'm not fully sure I could have said that one much better myself. It's a special thing to be able to play with the guys you've known for so long and to be able to celebrate those wins with them. I remember in my junior year, I was managing basketball, and we went down and we only won by 1 against Salida, and it kept our undefeated season alive in basketball. And I remember in the locker room, everyone was going insane. Everybody was trying to go for the sham god my water bottle got knocked out of my hands because guy was going for a fancy dribble move just because he felt like it, because he felt so good. And that's not a feeling you can replace. That's not a feeling you can recreate. And so I understand missing that already. But there are much bigger moments coming. And while Grandview has their season done for this year, a team that has more big moments coming are the Chatfield Chargers. So let's move on to their side of this game, starting with 7 minutes, 26 seconds left in the first quarter, where Jake Jones ended up running for 5 before throwing to Jude Smith for a touchdown, which made the score 7-0 after Andrew Astone hit the PAT with 6:26 on the board. Astone's kickoff was a touchback, and then Cody Wittig got the first of Chatfield's many sacks of the night. Caleb Espinosa led a group tackle, and then Ben Weber got in on the action with a tackle of his own. However, Chatfield then allowed a tutty and a conversion to go down 8-7 with 4 minutes on the clock. Goose Shelp had a 25-yard kickoff return, and then Jones threw to Drew Rollman for 10. Corey Ball ran for 6, and then Jones threw to Ball for a 25-yard touchdown, making it 14-8 with 24 seconds left. Logan Cundred then got a tackle to end the period. In the second, Will Lawrence took down a man to open the frame, and then Hunter Balderston got a pass deflection. Dagan Myers had a tackle, and then Balderston got a hurry before Reed Narva got a tackle, and Balderston got another. Lawrence got a tackle for loss, and then Reed Narva got the second sack of the night, which helped to force 4th and 22. After the turnover on downs that followed, Jones ran for 6 before throwing to Charles Yannett for 40. Jones then threw to Landon Mueller for 7 before Chatfield took a timeout with 2:40 left. Jones threw to Brock Narva for a 15-yard touchdown, putting Chatty up 21-8 with 2:34 left. Riley Sudduth made the tackle on the kickoff return, but the Chargers allowed a touchdown with 1:48 in the half to make it 21-15. Jones threw to Jaden Zeller for 8, but after an intentional grounding penalty, Chatfield was on 2nd and 38 and just ran it out before Astone punted for 40. Avery DeWeese got a hurry and then a sack before he shared one with Reed Narva, which helped to force a turnover on downs heading into the second half. In the third, Myers' kickoff went for 15, and then Jones ran for 15 himself. After an illegal formation call, Astone punted for 30. Balderston got a tackle, and then Nate Helms hurried the quarterback, which helped to force a punt, after which Jones threw to Colin Moat for 12. However, Astone did end up punting for 35 here. Balderston got a tackle for loss, and then DeWeese forced a safety after a hurry in the end zone, which made the score 23-15 with 2:54 left. And the thing about that is that it was a really, really weird play. I looked back at the replay. DeWeese, he managed to get what looked like a sack, but Liam Zarka wasn't on the ground yet, and Zarka probably could have been called for intentional grounding. He threw it, but when he threw it, it didn't land in the end zone. It landed on like the 1 yard line, half of a yard line, but it wasn't in the end zone. But they still called it a safety there, which, you know, the referees, they're the ones who end up calling it. But in any case, when we're looking at it, in short order, Shelp ended up returning the kickoff for about 25, and then after a holding call, Jones managed to rip off a 58-yard touchdown with 2:33 left, which was really, really a tricky one because he ended up going left. I was tracking right because Mueller was doing such a good job as the decoy, and Jones just ran it in with 2:33 to make it 30-15. After a face mask call, Helms and Espinosa shared a tackle before a roughing the passer call led to an untimed down, which ended up being a touchdown with zeros on the clock to make it only a 30-22 lead heading into the final frame of play. In the fourth, Jones immediately ran for 30, and Mueller ran for 10 before a fumble. Espinosa got a tackle, and then Reed Narva got in on the action before Espinosa managed to get a sack to help force a punt. After going 3 and out, Aston's punt was a touchback, but Chatfield allowed a touchdown, making it very, very dangerous waters. The Chargers did stop the conversion, but it was only a 30-28 lead, a 2-point lead here with 6 minutes left. Jones ran for 14 and managed to break many an ankle on what ended up being a 55-yard rushing touchdown with 3 minutes 29 seconds left to make the score 37-28. Aston's kickoff was a touchback, but Grandview was still fighting. That fight was ended, though, when Lawrence forced a fumble on a reception, which was recovered by Weber with under 2:30 left, which was all it would be in this matchup. And now, onto the guys for the Chatfield Chargers that made this game what it ended up being, starting with the defensive playmaker of the game here, Caleb Espinosa, who may not have had the biggest numbers of the night, but it really felt like he was the heartbeat of this defense. Chatfield was the underdog. They have been all playoffs, but hustle got them through it. Hustle, like what Espinosa displayed every single play. He didn't care who was lined up in front of him. He was going to do some damage. He was going to go out there and do the best that he could every single play, no matter what. And here he is on this matchup to advance to the Final Four.
You came in tonight the severe underdog against this Grandview team, but you in particular, you came out, you were busting guys in the mouth, you got that sack there, and you were really playing, you were playing like you're 6'6". What was your favorite moment of this game?
I just think coming out at halftime, being up, and then I think giving them, letting them come back and scoring. I think just us fighting back and obviously getting the win and getting it done. I think that was just overall just my favorite. I mean, we fought to the end. We didn't give up. Battled through adversity. Offense, when they went down, defense came out there, got big stops. Offense was able to capitalize, and we got the job done tonight. So that was, I think, just overall just fighting back and overcoming adversity was my favorite part.
Very nice. And I mean, next week you're going to have to overcome a lot more because Columbine, you've already played them once this season. Wasn't exactly the closest of games, but you're going to have to lock in defensively. What's going to be the game plan change from last time you faced them to this upcoming week?
I think we did a pretty good job last time playing them, stopping the run. So I think this week we're probably going to have to focus a little bit more on the pass game because that's what they beat us in last time. But definitely just going out there, doing what we've been doing all playoffs and just showing why we're the best defense.
That's the attitude to have right there, Caleb. I mean, the odds are stacked against you, but they've been stacked against you all playoffs. And you're showing that you guys have a lot of heart in you. And I'll talk about it more later, but an upset here is possible. I can see it happening. And one of the reasons that I can see it happening is our offensive playmaker of the game, Landon Mueller, who was just a damn solid running back. He didn't end up scoring, but it felt like every single time the ball was in his hands, Chatfield was guaranteed a first or second down, a first down or a second and short situation. And so here is Mueller on not only this upset, but also the road ahead.
Landon, every time you touched the ball tonight, it felt like a guaranteed 6 yards. What were you seeing in the defensive scheme that was allowing you to get that kind of gain?
Pretty much on all the runs, even in the pass game, they didn't break down very well, so just kind of making one move and just kind of trying to fall forward over and over. And I think it was working well, so I just stuck to it and kept doing it.
And you were able to stick to it well enough that you made it, I believe, to the Final Four for the first time in 5A. How does that feel for you?
It feels really good, really good. I was pretty scared after that fumble. I was down, but I was pretty scared after that. I thought I might have sold it for us, but we pulled it out, and now we get to play Columbine again. I'm pretty excited.
Well, there you go. And speaking of that Columbine game, how do you feel for that?
good. I always love to play against those guys. I mean, crosstown rivals is always fun. I'm friends with a lot of them. It's always competitive, and I know the schools really get after it with each other, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
And I'll tell you what, Landon, I remember the feeling of facing our crosstown rival in the playoffs, in the Final Four as well, actually. And yeah, that's a situation that you're going to try to take advantage of. And I can see it being a heck of a fight. And when it comes down to it, when you're talking about making up for those opportunities and when you mess up, what matters now is that you got the win, but what matters for the long term is that you learn from those mistakes and move forward and improve from them to make sure that you're able to advance to the championship. Survive and advance is the catchphrase at this point in the season. And the guy who I think, if Chatfield advances to the championship, is going to be the main reason why, is our playmaker of the game, Jake Jones, which, while Liam Zarka is the best player I've seen live, this game was among the best performances I have seen. And Jones was just involved in every score that Chatfield had aside from the safety. He had 2 separate 50-yard rushing touchdowns, and this team is going to go as far as Jones is going to go. And so here's Jones on his performance to get to the Final Four.
Jake, how does it feel? You guys went to the state championship game in 4A a few years ago. You came to 5A. You had some doubters in your ability to replicate that kind of success. How does it feel to prove them wrong?
It feels amazing. One of our main phrases this week was embrace the underdog, and that's what we did tonight, and it's great feeling out here, coming out and proving the team that we really are. No matter who predicts us to lose, predicts us as a low seed, we're going to go out on that field and show who we are.
And you guys have had some major ups and some major downs this season. You lost one of your top receivers in Michael Lumpkin. Mm-hmm. But what was your game plan coming into the playoffs and knowing that you wouldn't have him?
Just move guys around. We have a bunch of athletes. Our skills positions is what I think the best in the state. So we knew, although losing Micah was a big fault for us, we found ways to get around that and become a better team in a way.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of athletes, you're certainly up there. You ripped off 2 major long-distance touchdowns. Mm-hmm. What was going through your head on the first one, and then on the second one, was it kind of like a, how did they let me do this again?
Yeah, the first one is we knew our call. I see the hole, hit the hole, got to explode out of the hole. And, my lineman's showing great blocks for me. I wouldn't be able to do without him. The second one, really, it was just all there and make a miss.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do without my linemen and my coaches. Really appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Jake. And I mean, I gotta say, Chatfield's linemen did a really, really good job in this one. They only allowed, I believe, that 1 sack by Kolongo Wakalanji, who, I mean, he's really hard to stop. But if you only allow 1 sack against that Grandview defense, that's pretty darn good. And they're going to have a lot on their hands next week. So let's just head on to the game summary. We're going to start with Grandview here, who I think they're probably going to be a top 5 team in the class next year. So hear me out. I know they're losing Liam Zarka. I know they're losing Kolongo Wakalanji, but they have Blitz McCarty transferring from Mullen. I know that Koa Dietrich is their quarterback there. So Blitz, he's coming to Grandview, and he's going to be the QB of the future for the Wolves. They are losing a couple of major guys, but I want to say about 75% of the names that I said during that recap segment are juniors, sophomores, and freshmen. And this is a team that has already gotten to the Elite Eight with mostly juniors, sophomores, and freshmen. So I can see how, at least preseason-wise, I think this is going to be a top 5 team. Definitely a top 10 team. And, I mean, with Zay Neto at the helm, there's not many better receivers in 5A. And, I mean, looking at Chatfield and what they're going to have to do to advance to the championship. They're going to have to rematch with Columbine. And when I was talking with Cody about this Chatfield team, he said it reminded him of that team that made it to the championship, just building and building and building and getting momentum and getting revenge as they went through the playoffs. And, I mean, my thing is Columbine is going to be a really hard team to beat. They have, regardless of my thoughts on their system, they have a good system in terms of getting wins. And it's going to be tough to stop. And I'm not fully sure that Chatfield has it in them. But regardless, the Chargers can be proud. They are hanging a banner one way or the other. They don't have to worry about proving anybody wrong anymore because they've already done it. People had their doubts, and those questions have been silenced. And so, I'll say this. To all of the juniors and freshmen and sophomores, thank you for what you've done this year. And know that you're going to be able to continue next year, and we can't wait to see what you do. And to all the seniors, for both teams, because, we may see Chatfield in the championship, we may not, and we'll be seeing Grandview next year. But for all of their seniors who played or managed in this matchup, know that your contributions to Colorado athletics and history are valued. You are laying down a path that will continue to be improved upon by those who come after, and you've done a service to those who laid down the path before you. Whatever your future endeavors are, I wish you the best of luck. And as always, stay safe, don't die, stay hydrated, and have a beautiful day. Peace.
What's good, y'all? Coach V here, and I got your recap for this quarterfinal game between Ralston Valley and Pine Creek. Pine Creek hosting here, both teams obviously winning. In the round before to get here, just a quick overview. Let me set the stage here. Pine Creek out of their first round bye takes on Denver East and takes them down 41-24 in a little bit of a closer one. Ralston Valley, though, out of their bye, they take care of business as well against Rock Canyon, winning 42-14. And that's how we get here into this matchup. Both teams have not met yet so far this season, so this was definitely going to be an interesting one from the jump. Now, as far as significant injuries go, it appears there is no Elijah Roy for this game for Pine Creek. He's been their number one receiver. And in fact, I had to go back and look when was the last time he played? And it was October 27th against Chaparral in the regular season, where he went for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he didn't play against Denver East either, so it's been a couple weeks at this point. So unfortunately, he is out for Pine Creek. That was worth noting here in this game, and I think it made a pretty big impact in my opinion. Now, as far as other injuries, I mean, I don't have an injury report on me or anything. That's just what I noticed from, players not being there and having watched both of these teams before in the regular season and know who has been contributing. For Ralston Valley, I mean, of course, they are without one of their more dynamic players at wide receiver, but they've been without him for a minute here. That would be Liam Beatty, who hasn't been on this team since the start of the season, hasn't played in a game since the start of the season. But other than that, it looks like both teams were close to full strength here, or as close as you can be here in November. By the way, this game taking place on November 17th of Friday. So let's hop into it. Pine Creek, they would go ahead and start with the ball here, and they would start on the 13-yard line after a tough penalty on the kickoff. And so here we go to start out. A junior quarterback, Cam Cooper, goes ahead and throws a couple passes to number 7, who I believe is now Ramon Pacheco here on a couple curls. All those passes are enough to go ahead and get them across midfield here Following that, they go ahead and start running the ball here. A couple of Jonathan Core sweeps and handoffs, along with Cam Cooper scrambling here, and a Mason Miller run would go ahead and eventually bring down 4th and 2. They're on the 12-yard line when they kick this thing, so they decide not to risk it. They're just going to get these points here, which are very doable. And so Jonathan Core at kicker goes ahead and bangs it home from 12 to make it 3-0 with 7:47 left. Now Ralston Valley off the touchback, they go ahead and get started here. Fast forward to 3rd and 6. Logan Madden, the senior quarterback, drops back and throws a quick out left to Jackson Hanson. That goes for a first down to the 44-yard line. Right after that, they hand it off to number 26. That is running back Brady Weldon, and he gets loose right up the middle for a huge 20-ish yard gain, probably a little bit more there to go ahead and put them on the 21. Let's go to 3rd and 1 here. Logan Madden drops back and throws a quick hitch route that gets them a first down. That puts them on the 6. A couple plays later, another 3rd and 1 situation. They just hand it off to Brady Weldon, and he punches it into the end zone to give Ralston Valley the quick 7-3 lead with 3 minutes left here in this game. Now Pine Creek, they get the ball here and they are rolling, but then there is a fumble on a handoff. Couldn't quite see who the running back was on this one, but it doesn't matter as Ralston Valley recovers it, and so they take over on the 45 with 2:41 left here, looking to go up by 2 scores. To start out here, Logan Madden finds Marshall Strange for a couple of yards here. A couple different plays, actually. Two quick hitters in a row that would go ahead, or sorry, let's say 3 quick hitters in a row. That would give them a first down there. And that would basically pretty much end that first quarter. Let's fast forward to the second quarter where they have a first down on the 18-yard line. And on this first play in the second quarter, they go ahead and hand it off to Brady Weldon right up the middle. And like the sea, it parts. This Ralston Valley offensive line putting in that work. And Brady Weldon basically just walks in 18 yards out to make it 14-3 with 11:53 left here in the second. Now Pine Creek feeling the pressure down 14-3 early, still plenty of time in the second quarter, are trying to get something to go here. And so they go ahead and call a combination of short passes, one to Kai Goetze here, and a couple other runs to Jonathan Core and Mason Miller, who put in that work. And they do get across midfield here, and it's a first down after a nice quick curl to number 4, Cannon Budge. And so they're across midfield in Ralston Valley territory. After a Mason Miller dive for 4, they go ahead and hand it off to Miller again, but he's popped for no gain. That brings up 3rd and 6. Pine Creek calls a timeout, their first one of the half, at 7:43 here. And so out of the timeout, here's what happens. Cameron Cooper tries scrambling left, but he gets sacked. Or sorry, he starts scrambling right, I should say, left to me. But he gets sacked by Jake Huffman here. But it looks like he got him by the collar, a little horse collar there. And so that's a personal foul, and that'll go ahead and give Pine Creek a first down. After a Jonathan Core dive for 4, Mason Miller in the Wildcat just goes up right the middle, makes a couple people miss, a brutal run here, and he gets a first down, putting them on the 19. Following that, they go ahead and hand it off to Jonathan Core, who gets gang tackled in the backfield for a loss of 3. After that, Cameron Cooper, he drops back looking for a pass, but Brady Weldon, he's the quarterback spy here, and he goes ahead and shuts down that window and sacks Cam Cooper, making it 3rd and 17. On 3rd and 17, Cooper drops back again. He goes left, but once again is sacked by Austin Blattner, making it 4th and 17. Second timeout is called by Pine Creek at 4:13 as they're looking to get something going. They're going to go for it at this point. And so here we go. Cam Cooper drops back. He's looking, but no one is getting open. And he ends up getting sacked for the 3rd straight time by number 11, George Patterson here. And a little frustration here as he spikes the ball afterwards. And this momentum automatically goes Ralston Valley's way. And so here we go. Ralston Valley looking to go up potentially 21-3 in the second quarter. They have the ball with 4 minutes left on the 27. Let's fast forward a couple plays here. They try to dial up a nice little shot here downfield on the post route, and it looks like the receiver initially catches it, but safety Cannon Budge just rips it away here. A great play by him, and that goes for an interception. And so Pine Creek gets the ball back here. A little bit of a break with about 2:32 left on the 18. On first down, they go ahead and hand it off to Jonathan Core, who gives them 5. Then they call a jet sweep to Cannon Budge, who gets loose and gets a big gain here, but they call a penalty thrown on Mason Miller, I believe, and so that'll make it 2nd and 15. On 2nd and 15, they hand it off to Mason Miller, and he initially breaks a tackle, but is eventually tackled for a loss led by Brady Weldon and company. That makes it 3rd and 16 here. On top of that, they throw a personal foul on Pine Creek as they kind of begin to unravel here. And so now it's 3rd and 22. On 3rd and 22, not looking to risk it, they just run it with Jonathan Core. He gets a couple. It's 4th and 16. Ralston Valley calls their second time out here. And Cam Cooper, he goes ahead and punts it. Now, unfortunately, Ralston Valley's returner just doesn't field this thing, so it rolls all the way to the 24 with about 56 seconds left. And so Ralston Valley decides to just run it out with the 14-3 lead. And so here we go. Going into the third quarter, Ralston Valley actually receives to start here up 14-3, looking to put in the potential nail in the coffin here. And so here's what happens. Logan Madden, he sprints out left. He finds number 10 in the flats here on a little RPO action. That is Wyatt Morwood, the senior. That puts them on the 47. Following that, they have a couple of short throws here to Jackson Hanson. Nothing too crazy here, but the key play here is what happens on a 3rd and 6. Madden drops back and throws it, and it's just a bad PI. It didn't have to happen. It was definitely PI, and so that makes it a repeat of 3rd down, and it looks like they're on the 4 here near the goal line, that is, on the 4 in the red zone. And so 3rd down on the 4, Logan Madden on the read option. He goes right. He reaches it out, and he's down on the 1. But it doesn't matter as they hand it off to Brady Weldon, and he just trucks the defender. A very violent hit here to go ahead and put Ralston Valley up 21-3. Now, Pine Creek, they take over here with 8:15 left. Not quite out of it, but they need to score. But this is where the issues start happening here. After a Miller dive for 1 and a quick slant to Ramon Pacheco for a first, they go ahead and hand it off to Miller again. He gets another first down here. But there is a false start here right before their 2nd down play, so that makes it 2nd and 12. And on the 2nd and 12, they call a deep shot here, but it is basically double covered, almost triple covered here. And Cam Cooper throws this one, and Jackson Hanson just absolutely head tops the receiver for an interception. And so Ralston Valley takes over here on the 18 with 5:42 left, and they are committed to the run, and they just hand it off to Brady Weldon over and over and over again until they get to a 3rd and 2 here, and Weldon just rips off a huge run here for about 30 plus, maybe 40 plus yards here. That would put them on the 15. Eventually, let's fast forward a couple plays. It's 3rd and 11. Ralston Valley goes the first time out of the half at 1 minute 30 seconds here. And on 3rd and 11, they dial up a beautiful play here. Madden drops back and throws with beautiful timing on the slant to Wyatt Morwood, who walks it in here. Just great timing, a great throw here. And that gives them the 28-3 lead with 1 minute 24 seconds left. And that would basically be the end of this game here, as Ralston Valley would just run out the rest of the clock, and Pine Creek just could not get anything going as they were demoralized at this point. So there you go there. Ralston Valley wins this one and move on to the next round, while Pine Creek suffers arguably their worst loss. And I'm not exaggerating this, but arguably the worst loss that we have ever seen from them since we've covered Colorado high school football, which we started in 2021. So it's not like the worst here. They did lose pretty badly to Cherry Creek last year, but it was 41-21, so that's only a 20-point loss. This was a 25-point loss, and what makes this one worse is that Pine Creek lost at home, too. Like, they were obviously the higher seed, and I mean, it's just disappointing. Let me go ahead and get into thoughts here. Let me get into thoughts about this game. Let's talk about the winner here first, Ralston Valley, because I don't want to take anything from him here. Ralston Valley played a good game. Defensively, I think they did a really good job in that first half, just frustrating Pine Creek. And Pine Creek, you know, they've always kind of been a team that, in my personal opinion, from things that I've heard, have been a little prone to implosion, or have been prone to implosion. And so when things do not go their way, I don't feel good about this Pine Creek team, plain and simple. And, you know, Ralston Valley, they just did a good job. That second drive where they had 3 sacks in a row on Cameron Cooper is where you really saw that frustration begin to leak. Even when they got that interception on an excellent play by Cannon Budge, I mean, they just couldn't get it together. You know, a bad personal foul from Mason Miller and a couple more penalties on that drive would basically make that a 3 and out, which you can't have after a great interception. You're down 14-3, you score, it's 14-10. This game becomes completely different. But I mean, they just couldn't get it together, and the frustration was there. And I mean, they didn't run the ball too bad. They had 37 carries for 178 yards, but I really, really feel like that lack of Elijah Roy hurt Pine Creek. And so Ralston Valley was just able to key in on that run. And they did a really good job stopping that. That front seven led by Tyrese Johnson, Kit LeBlanc. I'm going to throw in Brady Weldon as well. They did a really good job. On offense here, we know what they're going to do. They're going to pass it a little bit here and there. But you know, when they have corners like Ramon Pacheco over there, they're going to match up relatively well to Jackson Hanson. So you can't throw it as much as you want. I know, you know, Logan Madden technically threw for 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, which is pretty good, right? But I think the biggest story here for Ralston Valley is that they were just able to pound the ball. Brady Weldon only had 13 carries, which is not a lot, but he ran for 128 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's 9.8 yards a carry. And he took over this game straight up. Brady Weldon just played tough, physical football, and he carried this team into the next round. It really wasn't that hard, and honestly, Ralston Valley was just able to do so much with Brady Weldon finding so much success, which hasn't always been the case so far this season. Usually they lean on that pass a little bit more here, and I mean, in this case, Brady Weldon, I mean, he had a great performance, a Playmaker of the Week performance, and they're moving on to the next round, you know, and that's all you could really ask for Ralston Valley. So great team win by them. Defense played great. The running game, I mean, you need 5 guys at least on that line to all do their job and everyone else to do their job as well. So as a team, they ran the ball extremely well. And then Logan Madden looked real good. I mean, didn't have to do too much, but took care of the football, took what they gave him, and that's all you could ask for. So there you go there. Very impressive win by Ralston Valley. Now as for Pine Creek, I'm not mad at the game plan. Early on, they really wanted to run this ball, you know, give it to Mason Miller, Cooper as well, and just wear down this line, because Ralston Valley, they do have a defensive line that is basically also their offensive line, right? So you want to use up as much of that energy as possible and just wear them down. You know, Pine Creek, they platoon, at least for the most part, and so I understood the game plan there, and I wasn't mad at it. They got 3 points on that first drive there. I don't think they should have went for it on 4th down, so that was the right decision there. But then it's that second drive. That second drive wasn't even that bad. They got into the red zone, but they had 3 straight sacks following a penalty as well, which, I mean, you can't have. The offensive line for Pine Creek just did not do a great job in pass pro. They just didn't. They played really bad, in my opinion, and did not do a good job. And as the game went on, the blocking for them just was not good. I mean, they couldn't really spring a lot of these guys out here. I mean, 37 total carries for them for only 178 yards between 3 different guys. That's only 4.8 yards a carry, which isn't that bad, but when you're playing from behind, you need a little bit more. Even then, I mean, you can't blame the line that much here. I'm definitely going to put a lot of the blame on the defense here for Pine Creek, specifically that front seven. They could not stop anything. They allowed themselves to get dominated by a front that is playing both ways. How do you allow that to happen? And they just didn't, and I know how you allow that to happen. They just didn't come ready to play. They didn't. They weren't able to match their physicality, and that ended up costing them this game. I felt like this game was a lot closer than what it actually was. And Pine Creek was within, striking distance for a lot of it, I would say. But this defense just could not stop the run, man. 180 yards. Brady Weldon only had 13 carries and almost averaged 10 yards a carry. What are you doing? Just not good. Just not good at all. As far as the secondary goes, I mean, there's only so much you could do when your front seven is allowing 10 yards a pop to the opposing leads, running back. So that's that here. I mean, Logan Madden didn't have a crazy day. I'm pretty sure he only threw for one touchdown, which was that slant there. Which, I mean, when you get to that point, there's not much you could do when they're on the 5 and you have a 6'2 receiver going up against like a 5'9", 5'10 corner. They're not the tallest when it comes to corners out there. So I'm not like, I don't know. There's not much you could do there. They easily could. They punched it in 3 times, though. One of them was wide open, and a big-time 18 yards run just right up the middle. No one there. Mason Miller, your Iowa State commit. I don't know where he was at, but he wasn't there. Played a lot off the edge, which was interesting. I maybe would not have made that decision, considering, I don't think Ralston Valley really has anybody that's like a sideline-to-sideline threat like that. Brady Weldon will be more north-south than anything, so there is that. I think that was a mistake, putting Miller on the edge a lot of the time there. I will say that. But, yeah, I mean, just not good defense. And, I mean, man, this Pine Creek team just unraveled so quickly here. And it's not good. I don't know. This was a disappointing loss. This was arguably maybe not the worst loss in the playoffs, but it's definitely at least top 10 for sure as far as Colorado high school football playoffs go, not just in 5A, but in general. You cannot lose to a team at home. And it's not like, I mean, they're good, right? They're definitely good, but you need to be better. I mean, for the most part, I felt like Pine Creek just really beat themselves here more than anything. They were soft, is probably the nicest way I could say it. They were soft. And I'm looking at that front seven. I'm looking at the line, specifically offensive line, defensive line, front seven. They played horribly, and you can't do that in the playoffs. They just didn't bring, it felt like, any energy at all, any physicality. And, I mean, there's only so much your skill players can do, especially against a line like Ralston Valley's. They have a good one of the best in the state, too. But it's not like your line is bad either. You also have one of the best in the state. The difference is that one came to play and you didn't. So, there's that. We'll see where Pine Creek goes from here. I mean, next year will be interesting. I mean, lose a lot of their secondary. They'll be without Mason Miller, be without Kai, their tight end, who's really good. But they do bring back a couple guys here. We'll lose a couple linemen as well, which, might be for the best, to be honest with you. We'll see. I don't know. Compared to how they performed this game, which, I'm here. Let me chill out. One bad game doesn't mean everything, but for Pine Creek, I know what they want to do. I know their expectations every year, being a contender for state, winning state, but you cannot contend for state if you're going to play soft like this. And so hopefully this is a lesson moving forward, not just this season, well, not anymore this season because you're done now because you played so bad, but, in the future. You can't play soft at all. You can't, especially at home. There's no excuse. I'm getting, so frustrated, but there's just no excuse playing this bad at home. So there you go. Ralston Valley, they win pretty easily here, 28-3. They'll move on to the next round.
Thank you, Coach V, for those recaps. I'm going to quickly go over the games that we were not able to attend and just re-hit on those games that were just recapped. But for full details on Pine Creek versus Ralston Valley or for Grandview versus Chatfield, just listen to the recaps provided by Coach V and Gideon. Now, over out west just a little bit was Littleton West versus Legend here. Legend, after taking a 3-0 lead heading into halftime, could not maintain it as the Rebels rattle off 21 unanswered points in this game. Mason Moreno finding pay dirt twice, Josh Snyder eclipsing over 100 yards, and James Sillison actually getting a rushing touchdown himself in this W. on the other side of things here, Nick Farley struggled quite a bit here, throwing 2 interceptions. Those 2 interceptions coming from Ryder Williams and Josh Snyder here. And this Titans defense also forced a fumble and recovered it here as well. That was also allegedly a Farley fumble as well. So that was, the Titans just obviously struggled offensively. On defense, Elijah Frakes Belair put in a heck of a last game, 2 tackles for loss and over double-digit tackles. Same with Nate Sandy, as well as Billy McGuckin, Peyton Auckland, and those Titans there. So congratulations to the Legend Titans on a solid season, and congratulations to those seniors here who left everything that they had on the field. And Littleton West will advance in the postseason to face off against the winner of Grandview versus Chatfield. Once again, for the full synopsis, go ahead and listen to Gideon's recap. But, just wanted to shout out the seniors of Grandview here. Liam Zarka in his last high school game goes 14 of 23 for 271 yards and 3 passing touchdowns, along with a rushing touchdown. So scoring all of Grandview's points here, at least touchdown-wise. And then not really any seniors outside of that, outside of the offensive line. And then Nkongolo Wakalanji, congratulations to him on a very solid season. Best of luck to those Wolves and all the seniors who are graduating for Grandview and who are going to play ball on the next level. We look forward to seeing what you're doing. And then on the other side of the fence, Chatfield here, they get one more week here, and thanks to a huge performance from Jake Jones, 14 of 22, 165 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and 179 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns, including a long of 58, and the game sealer for the Chargers here. Landon Mueller also rushes for over 100 yards. Brock Narva, the junior, catches 2 touchdowns in this game, and Jude Smith catches the other one, with 8 different receivers catching footballs here. Defensively, Caleb Espinosa went off 4 tackles for loss out of his 10 total tackles and 12 TFLs for this team in general, and 7 sacks. Reed Narva and Avery DeWeese, both with 2 apiece, and 10 hurries. Just a great pass rushing performance from the Chargers, who do go on advance and will replay Littleton West. Now, down south, obviously listen to Coach V for the full recap, but it was all Ralston Valley down south, 28-3 over Pine Creek here. Logan Madden, 2 passing touchdowns, over 200 passing yards. Brady Weldon, multiple touchdowns and over 120 yards, along with 12 tackles on defense, taking care of business. But on the Pine Creek side, Mason Miller plays his last football game here, puts up 82 yards in this losing performance here, as well as seniors Cannon Budge, Kai Getz, Ramon Pacheco, all guys that we've had a ton of fun watching over the years. Justice Nicholson as well is another name who comes to mind. So shout out to the Eagles. Best of luck heading forward with your future endeavors. And Ralston Valley does survive to play Cherry Creek here once again. Cherry Creek making the semifinals, and this is a rematch. On the wrong end of this scoreboard, Mountain Vista loses this one 51-24. And, senior like CJ Reese, he caught a touchdown in this game on his way out. And then as far as other seniors go, Wyatt Seaman here had 6 tackles. Caden Castro, Colton Bowers, Austin Ayotte, he had a tackle for loss as well, and Orion Ulmer, Zach Ruffle, just to name a few guys who had tackles here. They do sack the quarterback 4 times, and they do score 4 touchdowns. Sean Conway catching 2 of those, and Japri Jennings catching 1 of those as well in Austin Madreski's 338-yard performance with 4 touchdowns to a pick. But the Bruins run away here. Jordan Heron, I believe, had 3 touchdowns. Brody Vodka with 2 touchdowns himself. And they continue to be the team to beat. And that is exactly what Ralston Valley is going to try and do in this rematch. That's going to do it for the 5A recap of things. But now we jump into the predictions. I already told you the matchups, and so let's go ahead and jump into it. We got Cherry Creek versus Ralston Valley here, and I'm just going to go straight down the line that were listed here. Coach V says, Cherry Creek. While it was impressive to see Ralston Valley slam Pine Creek, I knew that Pine Creek was an implosion waiting to happen from all the things I knew about them before the season. Cherry Creek does not have those same internal issues, and I believe will be much tougher to beat than they were when these 2 teams first met. Cherry Creek should make another trip back to state, but I wouldn't be surprised if Logan Madden made them sweat for it first. So Coach V taking Cherry Creek, and for more details on what Coach V is talking about in that Pine Creek segment, go ahead and jump back to that so you can see where our rumblings were coming from. Now, for Gideon here, Odds are that Creek wins this. Ralston went into the Springs and destroyed Pine Creek, but Cherry Creek is a whole new beast. When they played, Cherry Creek won 35-9. Tyrese Johnson will have his hands full with the might of Cherry Creek's offensive line, and I'm not sure who else can stop the front seven. However, these are two different teams from the beginning of the season. Ralston has been revitalized. I still see Creek winning this one by 14, but Ralston will put up a hell of a fight. The Bruins will probably make it to another championship, but I could potentially see Ralston in Fort Collins. So that's 2 votes for Cherry Creek here. And Gino going down the line, not going to change it up, says Cherry Creek. The Bruins have already taken down Ralston earlier in the year, and pretty easily at that, but I still think the Mustangs could make some serious noise in this one. Logan Madden can make magic happen in the clutch. It's just about whether or not that Ralston defense can keep Creek within reach. Creek should probably win this one by 2 scores, though, with how they've been playing. So that's 3 votes, and I'm not going to change it up either. I don't think the Bruins are capable of the same collapse that sunk Pine Creek, and plus, Creek is the type of team that you probably don't want to play twice anyway. This will be closer than the last matchup where Creek's superior depth helped them run away in the second, but the depth still feels like it's too much for the Stangs. So that's 4 votes for Cherry Creek in the semis to make it up to Fort Collins. Now we got Chatfield versus Littleton West. Coach V says, Littleton West, all cards on the table. The emotional part of me wants Chatfield to beat them. The logical part of me says that Chatfield's defense will struggle against this system. Their defense has always been a little suspect to me, and I think the only way Chatty wins is if their offense relieves some of that pressure and goes up by a couple scores so that the pressure is put on Littleton West to pass. We all know what their weaknesses are, but Littleton West won't put themselves in that position often for those weaknesses to matter. Gideon says, quote, Chatfield has momentum, I will give them that, and having watched them, I can see them winning this game. The Chargers feel confident in beating Columbine in Littleton and advancing to Canvas Stadium. I can see it, but the Rebels pull it out 65% of the time for me. Their offensive scheme, regardless of my thoughts about it, is hard to stop, and their defense is one of the top in the class. Chatfield can get revenge. They have a much more well-rounded offensive scheme, but Columbine's front seven is too large, the rushing attack is intense, and their D is insane. I have Columbine by 17. That's Gideon. Now, Gino, quote, Littleton West. A Littleton West and Creek State final feels inevitable at this point. Chatfield has a ton of momentum on their side, and Legend was keeping it close with Columbine for the first 3 quarters too, so I don't think this will be a blowout. Littleton West is the more complete team, though, and I don't trust Chatfield's front seven to be able to wear down the Rebel run attack, so give me Littleton West by 10 here. And lastly, myself here, I'm taking Littleton West. I just don't think the Chargers' front seven matches up well with West's line. Missing Brock and Micah also hurts this offense that could have had a couple extra ways to play make to go to state. Now, since I have typed this, Brock Narva did receive touches and 2 receiving touchdowns in that game, but we'll see where his health is at since he still has not taken carries out of the backfield, which is where his true dynamic playmaking comes to full fruition, is being both a great running back that can catch out of the backfield, split out wide, and make plays that way, as well as carrying it between the tackles. So we'll see how they use him there. But I digress. West also showed that they're more than patient enough for their opponent to slip after a slow start in their win over Legend proved to not matter at all. So we got 4 votes for Creek and 4 votes for Littleton West. That's the championship that we're predicting, but we are more than willing to be wrong. Now, we are going to see how wrong we were in the last round of the playoffs based on our predictions. So after a word from our sponsor, Madskillz RB1 Training, Coach V is going to take us through that. So do you want to know what the best kept secret in running back training is? It's Madskillz RB1 Training. Coach Voss is flipping the script and leveling up running back training in Colorado by implementing his proven, nationally recognized system of training. Don't be fooled by the name. Quarterbacks and receivers become fundamentally sound juke artists as well with his training. It's evident the athletes he trains love him. Each progressive training session arms the athlete with a new skill set that prepares them to be shifty, powerful, and elusive. Parents love Coach Voss because with his training, they receive free college recruiting tips, no contracts, and no drama. Message him on Instagram at Madskillz_RB1 Training or at Coach Cut Creator on Twitter, X, for more information. Offseason runs from January through July, so get in the cut and get some mad skills this offseason.
What's good, y'all? Coach V here, and I got your round 3. I guess not round 3. It's technically week 13 playoff predictions summary here. This week, every correct prediction is worth 4 points compared to 2 points from last week. So it's doubling each week, just so you know here. So wanted to give a quick update here. A much better week this time around here. Cody had the most correct as far as percentage goes with 88% correct. Gino right behind him with 81%. And then me and Gideon both had 75% here. Let me go ahead and get down to it, though, talking about these predictions real quick. Let's start with mine. I was 3 of 4 in 5A, 2 of 4 in 4A, in 3A I was 4 of 4, got all the 3A matchups correct there. In 2A I got 1 out of 2 correct, and then in 1A I got both of them correct. I was the only one to pick Strasburg out of everyone, so there you go there. That is enough for 48 points, so that puts me at 121 points as of right now. Cody, this is how he did. 3 of 4 right in 5A, 4 of 4 right in 4A and 3A. Also 2 of 2 right in 2A, on fire there in 4A, 3A, and 2A. And then in 1A, he got the Strasburg game wrong, but got the Lyman game right. So there you go there. He adds on 56 points as he will take on the lead over me with 125 points to my 121. Gino is currently tied with me as far as points with 121. As far as predictions go, he was 3 of 4 in 5A and 4A. Got all the 3A matchups right at 4 and 4. 2A as well, 2 and 2 there. And then 1A, he got the Strasburg game wrong. So there you go there. But now he's tied with me at 121. And then Gideon is not too far behind, but he is last with 117 total points now. In 5A, in 5A, 4A, and 3A, he got 3 of the 4 matchups right there. And then in 2A, got 1 of them right. And then in 1A, actually, I think he got the Strasburg game right there. So there you go there. As it stands, Cody's in first. Me and Gino are tied in second as far as points go. And then Gideon is in a close fourth here at 117. Now, this next week, all the games will be worth 8 points. State championship games will be worth 8 points here as we predict those. So it should be a lot of fun.
Thank you, Coach V, for catching us up on that. And now I'm going to transition us to our Playmakers of the Week that is brought to you by Code Red Coaching. Visit them at coderedcoaching.com, where the grind to greatness starts with the mind. Go ahead and check out their website and get in tune with your mental performance for your athlete or yourself. Go ahead and call Cody Rosenthal at 720-979-1914 and get set up for an appointment so that you can be as strong of a performer mentally as these Playmakers of the Week, brought to you by Code Red Coaching. So let's go ahead and go through. There's obviously going to be less and less nominees as we come towards an end here. The very first set of Playmakers of the Week is going to be discussed from 1A, where there were 2 nominees that Gideon had, one being Jordan Rockwell, Lyman's quarterback, who went 6 of 9, nice, for 96 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and then on the ground ran for another 140 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, along with notching 3 tackles on defense in their win over Meeker and punched their ticket to state. The other nominee is another quarterback, Strasburg's quarterback here, Landon Martin, 7 of 19 for 217 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns to just 1 pick, and then 54 rushing yards and a touchdown, along with 5 tackles in an overtime revenge win against Ray to advance to the championship for the first time since 2020. And if the emphasis didn't sell it for you, that is a cue to know that Landon Martin is your 1A Playmaker of the Week. On the 2A level, it was between a handful of Delta and Rifle guys like Jordan Frazier for Delta, Troy Matea here, 2 sacks, 11 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, forced fumble. Logan Gross, 195 yards, a passing touchdown, and then 121 rushing yards and 2 rushing scores, along with an interception and 3 pass deflections. But ultimately, it went to Delta's tailback, Talon Hewlett, with an absurd volume, 31 carries for 220 yards and a score, along with 11 tackles and 3 for loss on the defensive side of the football, that made him Gino's pick for Playmaker of the Week in Week 2. Once again, that is Talon Hewlett out of Delta. On the 3A level, Coach V had 2 nominees here that he was looking at in particular, both quarterbacks per usual with Coach V here, one being Blake Westland, who had 121 passing yards and then 127 rushing yards, along with 3 rushing touchdowns in a win over Roosevelt. Might I add that he also had 13 tackles in that game as well, including 1 for loss. And then Riley Suarez here went 4 of 11 for 73 yards, passing touchdown, but on the ground went for 247 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns on 28 carries in the win over Northfield. And if you think that you are going to follow the emphasis rule here, you would be wrong, because Blake Westland is going to be the 3A Playmaker of the week. It was huge. He needed to play this entire game, which just says how important he is to this football team. And, defensively, he was an absolute monster. I can vouch for that myself. And then when he needed to pass, he was on it with some big-time completions in big-time spots. And then on the ground, just being an absolute battering ram, pun completely intended, for all of those rushing touchdowns. On the 4A level, could we had a couple of nominees here. Blake Griffin out of Montrose, 4 rushing touchdowns. Mason Smiley, 2 interceptions, 3 pass deflections, and a pick 6 in Broomfield's win over Mesa Ridge. And then Derek Hester, 10 of 19 for 104 yards, 1 passing touchdown, and then 139 rushing yards and 2 rushing scores in the win over Heritage. But ultimately, we're going to err on the side of defense here. Mason Smiley representing the Eagles here with that major defensive performance, getting his hands on the ball 5 times and catching it twice and taking one back to the house in Broomfield's big win to return to the semis for the second year in a row. And then myself on the 5A level, there are lots of good options to choose from here, but I narrowed it down to Brady Weldon, who had 13 carries for 128 yards and a few scores, 12 tackles, and a sack with a forced fumble for the Stangs here. And then Jake Jones, 14 of 22 for 165 yards, 3 scores through the air, 11 carries for 179 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. He is actually going to be my selection for Playmaker of the Week. And as one could imagine, as we get towards the end of this season, the Playmakers of the Week start to overlap quite a bit with the Game of the Week Playmakers here, since we attended, Heritage, and then 2 5A games, 3A, and another 4A game. So we went to 5 games this weekend, and I want to say that there was only 16 total, so a huge chunk of those. So a lot of the Playmakers of the Week also overlap, like I said, with the Game of the Week Playmaker as well. But we'll discuss that in just a second after I go over our Playmakers of the Week. 5A, Jake Jones out of Chatfield. 4A, Mason Smiley out of Broomfield. 3A, Blake Westland out of Green Mountain. 2A, Talon Hewlett out of Delta. And 1A, Landon Martin out of Strasburg. Once again, those Playmakers of the Week brought to you by Code Red Coaching. Visit CodeRedCoaching.com or call 720-979-1914 today. So that is how you get mentally in tune, and that's where the grind to greatness starts, is with the mind. But on the flip side of that, you also do need to train your body, and you need to also recover, and you need to be strong for these performances here, especially when we attend our games of the week. We're looking for strong playmakers who are playing with everything they got, and we had a handful of those this weekend. Between Brady Weldon was Coach V's submission, 13 carries, 128 yards, and a few scores, along with the 12 tackles and the forced fumble sack on defense. And then myself, I really liked Blake Westland as well for Green Mountain. Like I said, playing both sides of the ball. He had over 240 total yards on offense, 3 touchdowns, and then defensively was consistently making solo tackles or was in on the pile here. 13 tackles and 1 for loss. However, I'm going to err with Gideon's judgment here and say that Jake Jones, while also being our 5A Playmaker of the Week, is also our Game of the Week Playmaker, brought to you by Junkyard Training. Visit junkyardtraining.net or call 303-521-7594 to increase your performance and perform like Jake Jones out of Chatfield, the quarterback who had 5 total touchdowns in this game, 3 passing, 2 rushing, and over 300 yards of offense coming via him, spreading the wealth out very, very well, getting completions to 8 different receivers, as well as finding the open grass in that performance as well. So Jake Jones, as on top of your ability to play again this weekend and be named our Game of the Week Playmaker, you may also head on down to 14697 East Easter Avenue, Suite E in Centennial, Colorado, 80013 to collect some swag courtesy of Jesse from Junkyard Training. And for all of those that want to see what else Junkyard Training has to offer and be like one of the athletes that wins those swag those swag packages, I should say, or to buy those products individually, visit 14697 East Easter Avenue, Suite E in Centennial, Colorado, 80013, or go ahead and check out junkyardtraining.net and find out how you could be a Game of the Week performer just like our very own Jake Jones. And that is going to do it for this episode of Playmakers Corner. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Gideon, Gino, Coach V, and myself's recaps from this past week. And be sure to stay tuned because we do have 3A awards coming out this Friday anywhere you listen to podcasts. And then at the same time, we have polls on Twitter/X for a multitude of categories on the 4A level. They are the same: Offensive Playmaker of the Year, Defensive Playmaker of the Year, Newcomer of the Year, Most Valuable Playmaker, and for the first time ever, Coach of the Year. You can voice your opinion and help win the fan vote, which is just one of a handful of votes to decide who the award winners are. The media poll for 3A through 5A is going to be, of course, Gino, Gideon, Coach V, and myself, but we also have Spencer from Box State Sports, who's putting in votes as well, and then Coach Wes as well. Go ahead and give those guys follows on X, Twitter, or Instagram, and be sure to stay tuned for their 2 cents on our award show that we will be reading out. So that award show for 3A comes out this Friday. We have 4A polls, so go put your vote in, so that way you can be one of the, what does that make, 7 total votes for our media polls for our end of the year awards. And on top of that, we will be attending 1A and 2A state championships this Saturday following Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone here. Hope you are able to weather the holidays. And to my football players out there who are going to have practice on Thanksgiving, just try and enjoy it. You know, I think that I heard a really good quote today while at the CSU Pueblo media thing for 6-man through 3A football. And that's that like 250 other teams don't get to practice on Thanksgiving. So enjoy every second of it. To all the seniors who didn't quite make it this far, congrats on awesome seasons and awesome careers and for representing Colorado football. And if you want to continue to see how Colorado football is represented, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or TikTok, all at Playmakers Corner, except Twitter/X is at Playmaker Corner for all the updates on everything Colorado football. I have been your showrunner / one of your hosts, Cody Stauffer, and I am signing off.